All right. So we had a little bit of technical difficulties. Not our fault. We had a random storm. We had a little bit of technical difficulties. We had a random storm that was bananas here in Arizona. I just posted some awesome little videos on our Dirt Life Instagram story and Facebook story if you guys want to go check them out. Chris had to go check on the dog, make sure the dog was okay. We had a hailstorm. It was pretty gnarly. But I think we should be back up and running pretty good now. So where were we at? You still there, Case?
Yes, sir. I'm here.
Sweet, man. Did you guys get a storm over at your casa?
We did. We got a pretty good surge as well.
Yeah, it was gnarly, man. We got so much hail over here. It was like it was snowing. Lance and Chris brought the freaking craziness.
How's your head feeling after that snowball hit you?
That wasn't too bad.
Throwing snowballs in Arizona, dude. How sweet is that?
Nice.
So we're back. Where were we at? What were we talking about?
Supercross.
Yeah, of course. Ferrandis and how he's good for the sport.
Yep.
Well, he actually is, just because he's a freaking badass rider, man. Like,
It's
Yeah, I think that he's. We were talking about how he needs to step up his image, for America, because it would suck
Right.
for him to not really, enjoy his time here. And he's got a lot going against him since he's French and all.
so I heard, like, when he was talking about it, like, he was, doing some interviews about it, and obviously they ask him those questions and things like that. He was saying, he's like, I really wish that the American public would accept me more and give me a little bit more of a chance. And, like, I agree with the whole thing, like, if you're not from America, then F you and all that stuff. I mean, like, that's the way Americans think. But he lives here. He legit,
Right.
like, he's here. Like, he's always going to be around.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, but I think we're more accepting than I mean, come on. If you go to France and just turn on the TV in France, go to Paris, turn on the TV. There's one channel and it's all redneck mud sports.
Really?
And so there's only one way that they see us. So for a guy who loves America as much as he does, I mean, what is that? What do you do in that case? Is there some kind of a PR firm that can help him out to build his image and help him get an image, or is it just he's landlocked now?
No, I think he can save it. I mean, it's going to be difficult because he took out America's child, Craig, and I don't think it was anything that he did on purpose. I think it was he was being too aggressive, and he didn't have that luxury of hindsight.
yeah.
And so he had to make the pass, and it was a bad decision, and it went real bad.
Yeah, I agree. And the racing always brings that stuff. I really like the point that you brought up about, I guess back in the day, we'll call it, but racing used to be a lot more intense, and that's what drove Supercross to be the cool sport that it is now. Like Damon Bradshaw going and like battling against Jean-Michel Bale and like those cool races, like him battling with Chicken Matasevich, like those were knockdown, drag-out battles that we can talk about for years.
Mm-hmm.
And to finally start seeing that again might not be a bad thing.
Right. It's weird, though. I mean, Bradshaw used to screw with everybody because it was way more of a mental thing. We didn't have social media. We didn't share. I'm not saying we, like I didn't have a guy that did contracts for me, and
Yeah, it was a lot different.
yeah, and I didn't have a Jimmy Button, taking care of me and taking care of my competition also at the same time. So that comes into play. You don't race them as hard, I guess, maybe because you might get a stern talking to or something. But in a way, I think the racing is better now because they're a little bit more they ride a little bit more. I don't want to say respectful because we respected each other, and if you disrespected us on the track, you were gonna get hurt the next turn.
Yeah, you were going to pay for it.
Yeah, and I don't see that quite as much. And when we do see it, the crowd goes crazy, like they think they're watching, softball or something.
So we were talking about this, and this has absolutely nothing to do with Supercross, but we were talking about the change in society, like on one of the first shows that we had, and I'm a genuine believer, like the dirt life. We started the show because we grew up in the dirt, right? How do I say?
The city, bro.
Well, I just want to pick my words here. Society's a pussy now compared to what I feel like it used to be, and our grandparents will tell us the same thing.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
So how much more of a pussy does it have to be, like, to go down the line? You know what I mean? Like, where do we draw the line in being okay with what we're doing? Like, why is it not okay that Dylan did those things? I guarantee you, and you know what? I saw it too. Like, in the last chance qualifier, the dude got parked in the last turn, like, 3 races ago or something?
Yeah.
Freaking nailed him. And everybody was stoked on it, like, amped up, right? So
that
what?
was the Japanese guy that got hammered on.
So how do you draw the line? You know, like, where does it come into play that it has, like, and he's not on probation.
No.
You know, like, so I don't know. I mean, it is what it is.
Well,
We can
the first mistake is at the aim, let it slip out of their hands, and that's why we have Feld, and that's why we have the riders getting taken advantage of, and then the AMA tries to make themselves relevant with penalties and probation. Now, because of social media, you can't really get away with that, but man, plastic.
unless it's Lasergate.
Yeah, or whatever.
It sure has been commercialized since those days. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
we have to give a little respect to, what they've been able to do to reach the masses. Because, if we think of those golden ages when, Chicken and Bradshaw were taking each other out. I mean, what was the actual following then? It was a bunch of us hardcore people, but I don't think you had anywhere near the viewing that you do now. So to some extent, I think a little bit of it is almost kind of manufactured. I hate to say that, but
Right.
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it makes sense.
Casey, I'm still trying to figure out what Chris meant by the crowd act like they're watching softball. What do you think?
Well,
I'm still thinking about this. I'm still trying to understand what that meant altogether.
Bunch of sissies.
I'm going with the home run, right? That was the crack, the bat, and the home run, and we were all going crazy.
well, I was talking about, a guy does a block pass on a guy, and the crowd is all butthurt about it. I mean, they're racing for a win.
Yeah, I got
and
you.
in softball, if you came in and slid with your plastic cleats up high, that's gnarly in that sport. But and this is motocross. I mean, we get hurt. This isn't something that you just kind of do half-assed. And so a guy is making a block pass, and it's a gnarly block pass. It's super aggressive, and the crowd doesn't understand it because they've never been in that situation. They don't understand how peaked you are on everything. You're going 10/10. You're not riding at 75%. You're riding at what you think you're almost going to crash at.
Yeah. You got to be going. Yeah, and to make split decisions like that.
Right.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's. What other points you got, Case, before we start talking to Chris and Lance about all the awesome stuff we got?
So I do have one lingering question that's been sitting around here. So I have to say, Chris, remember that High Flyers card that was back in the day? I was trying to figure out what you were doing riding on the moon.
There it is.
funny.
Look at that.
Look at that bad boy.
Yeah.
Right next to, and these are all in sequence too. You're right next to Damon Bradshaw and Mike LaRocco.
Right on.
That's pretty badass, man. Chris has got his own High Flyers card. It's like a baseball card. It's pretty sweet, man.
So
That's him right
I got
here.
nicknamed Mooney after that.
Really?
Yeah.
How did that come up though? Like, do you submit those pictures or
No,
where does?
they took that, just judging by my gear and stuff, they took that at Axton at David Bailey's National.
That's pretty cool. I don't know if you guys can
This
see it in
guy's
the,
so
in the camera
badass.
angle.
He's riding on the moon.
Yeah, so what's crazy is I didn't even realize that I was on the moon. I just was so, stoked.
That you had
and
a
my
card?
friends are like, they start calling me Mooney, and I'm like, what the hell are you guys talking about? And then, if you look at it, the Earth is in the background, and I'm like, oh.
I thought that was pretty
School
badass.
wasn't real high on my list.
Hey, you know how long it must have took for them? Because that wasn't during Photoshop days where you could just clip that out and put it like, that's pretty bitchin', dude.
That was really cool.
Do you remember those things when they first came out, Case?
Oh, yeah. I was just like you. I didn't have the whole set, but I couldn't wait to get the pack every time we went down to the store for sure.
I can promise you that if I had my card in sequence between Mike LaRocco and Damon Bradshaw, I would have been pretty pumped up, dude. That's badass, man.
That is cool. I didn't even realize that.
That's so cool. And that's in sequence, too. So all those are organized in sequence.
Well,
so.
the funny thing is it says my nickname is Ridge Monster. Well, someone apparently, Mark Easley, got to my information that I filled out, and they wrote in a nickname or something. I didn't really have a nickname, and I didn't know I had a nickname until the card came out.
That's bitching.
And I'm like,
though.
Ridge Monster? Are you serious?
Which one do you like better, Mooney?
Mooney was pretty popular for a while, but most people just call me Ridge. So
Right on. Well, thanks very much for calling in, Case. You got anything else?
Nope, I'm good.
You're a stud,
Glad you
Casey.
guys could make it. Yep,
Yeah.
good to talk to you guys.
Thanks, dude.
nice talking to you, man.
Tell the girls who said hi.
Will do. See you guys.
Later.
Bye.
Thanks very much, Case, for calling in. I love talking Supercross. Like when we had this hailstorm come in, you were like, dude, I could talk about motocross and Supercross the whole night.
Yeah.
But we can't. We got to talk about you guys. So we got some really good stuff to talk about with you, Chris. Actually, you know what? Let's give a little – we're going to talk to Lance first, but let's give a little teaser. So we got some pictures that are going to come up on the screen. Can you give us a 5-second brief on each one of these bad boys?
Yeah, I've been waiting for this.
So this one here is obviously you, the dog, and the lady. So that one's pretty cool.
That's my Great Dane Bullet. He passed away last July. But
and you can
was
see over
pretty
here on the
rad.
right, you're doing some overlanding stuff in the van with the trailer.
Yep. So that's kind of what I'm into now. I do a lot of off-roading in the van, and we go do these gnarly trips, crossing rivers.
Pretty badass picture of you on the dirt bike with obviously your injury, racing a Porsche too.
Yep. I raced in the Rolex series for a little bit.
This picture looks like it was from KOH or something.
Yeah, that's from KOH when I did a thing for Top Gear TV program.
Right on. And then obviously some more overlanding stuff in the van.
That's at Red Bud at Donations.
There's Ruger.
Yeah,
nice
Ruger's there.
Yep, nice picture of your leg. And this
There's
is
some
where your
screwed up.
injury was. And then if people don't want to watch the screen, you might have to turn your head.
That's the money shot.
Woo! I tell you what, when I saw that picture, I was like, holy shit, man. Like, to me, that is so freaking gnarly. Like, I've dealt with so many injuries and dealt with all this stuff, but seeing that picture puts a human perspective on those actual injuries. Like,
Absolutely.
it doesn't get like any worse than seeing a picture like that.
I couldn't even look at it for a while.
I could only
asked
imagine.
the doctor to take pictures, and
Whew.
I couldn't look at it for a little bit. And my
I
dad
bet.
actually looked at it, and he had to tell me, hey, it's not that bad.
So for the listeners that are listening on iTunes and not watching on live on Facebook or YouTube, it was a picture of, unfortunately, Chris lost his left lower leg, and it was a picture of that the doctors took after the surgery. So if you want to go on our social media and check it out, you can. We'll get into Chris's whole story. He's got a really, really cool life story, man. He's done so much awesome stuff. You never want that to happen to anybody, but when it does happen, it's all by your mindset, like we talked about earlier with Cooper Webb changing. You have definitely done that in your life, so I can't wait to hear more about it. But let's talk to Lance a little bit about SolderWeld.
Yeah.
So SolderWeld has always been a big supporter of my race program. They've been a big supporter of the Dirt Life show, so we thank them very much for doing all that stuff. And one of the main things that I would like to say is that no matter who we pick as our partners in racing or in the show now, we don't just do it because people want to pay us. We always get approached and say, oh, will you put our product on the show? Well, we have a very limited amount of partners because we have a criteria that we follow. And the first portion of that criteria is they have to be good people. And Chris can attest to this throughout all of his racing. When you have a partner and it's a good person, it's worth way more than money.
Mm-hmm.
So we really, really like that. And we really appreciate everything that Lance has done for us and for all of our listeners. The off-road repair kit has pretty much taken off, huh?
Yeah, it's been a good one. We're pretty excited about it. We wanted to cross over into not only the the racing side of it, the off-road racing, but also your average guy out there that just wants to go out and have fun. You know?
Dune riders, off-roaders, Jeeps, trucks,
out in the woods,
side-by-sides.
your
motorcycles.
side-by-sides, your the general that's going out, guys going hunting.
Yeah,
he doesn't want to get stuck in the stuck in the brush or whatever. So, I mean, you get a random tree branch that goes through your radiator. You want to be able to have something that get you out right then and there, so you're not having to hike out or drag something out. So
I've used it a lot, and it's almost like a first aid kit for your.
Sure.
You carry your first aid kit for your body, but it's almost like a first aid kit for your vehicle or whatever you're using. I mean, you could use it on anything. People can even use it on the chase trucks and stuff if something happens. But it's about the size of a first aid kit, and it contains all of the stuff that you can bond metal with.
Uh-huh. So not only, is what we're known for, we lead the industry in aluminum repair. We, created a product and manufacture a product that is half the melting temperature of aluminum And as you know, Chris, everything else out there on the market melts about the same temperature as aluminum does. So if you're scared to death to try and fix aluminum, this is the product that is half the melting temperature of aluminum. You have a lot of room to play, right. So you can make a fix on, a radiator, a AC line, or, anything aluminum.
Or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Those things are really cool, man. They've actually saved me a bunch of times.
So I got a lot of friends that race KOH. I've been with KOH since the beginning, pretty much. I missed the first year, but I was there every year after. Lauren Healy, I saw that you were watching. This is something that you should have on your car. All my KOH buddies should have this on their car.
Crack that bad boy open. Let's see what's inside there.
Yeah, and by the way, man, we brought that for you. That one's for you.
That's
to take
that's
home.
really cool. Thanks.
We're glad we got a chance to meet you.
Yeah.
So you have these different kind of rods in here, and you could repair. Like he was saying, if you took a rock to the radiator during a race, obviously something like KOH, you're not going to do it at the Nationals or something. But you could fix this thing and be underway, and save your car. It's huge, and it's really cool, and it's so compact. I think it's rad. I'm excited to have.
So
this
what? The
now.
only thing you need other than that kit is just a little bit of map gas.
Just a torch.
Yeah.
Yeah, even a butane handheld torch, one of those little ones you pull off the Snap-on truck or something.
If you're from Victorville, you probably have one in your pocket with a
Yeah,
spoon or something.
that could be.
So the torches come easy.
So you're saying a crack pipe torch? Is that what we're talking about now? Okay. Yeah, that's been in the auto industry. That's been referred to it like that. But we, we went a little bit further with it. As well, you've got your brake line rods as well. So you bust a brake line numerous times. We've been fixing that.
So would you weld that up to pinch it off or what?
No, you don't have to. You can actually.
What about the brake fluid that's in the line? I mean, is it going to dissipate when you get it hot enough? Is that what happens?
Well, it's the flux that actually dissipates it and pushes it back.
Okay.
So that's where the flux comes in and allows you to be able to make that fix with decontaminating the area, because as well as I do, I mean, when metal is dirty, there's no fix to it, right? So the flux does all the work for you. And then we also threw in a this is one of our flagship products, is called Hot Block. And I know, George, you love this stuff, but it's not only just for heat absorption.
I used it on, I put it like I was trying to reach in on my side-by-side to work on some stuff because we broke. And I put just a little bit on the exhaust pipe so I could actually reach in there and I could still, so I didn't have to get my arm burnt because I had to get it all crazy in there. So
I had a guy that was welding his exhaust, and he put it on his arm so he could rest his arm right on the exhaust and be able to do that.
Yeah, same
just
thing.
Like that, yeah. And then
if you're Shannon Campbell, maybe you put it over your legs when your power steering goes and saves the third-degree burns on your legs.
So I think those kits are bitching, man.
Well, it's great for every ride. And then on top of that as well, so we have a chase truck kit. So this one has the full
you
length.
Could strap that on a roll cage or something. Huh?
Yeah, full length rods. So I mean, if you you're going to be making a lot of fixes.
He doesn't like a full length rod.
Yeah, I mean, shit. Flux comes with it in case you want to dip your rod in the flux.
Right,
perfect for that. Yeah.
Get it all nice and clean. Is that a new product?
And then we got this thing.
Oh yeah, we didn't talk about this. Yeah, so this is brand new, hasn't hit the market yet.
All right. So when you brought this out, dude, like the first thing I said was, "What? I got to have one of those."
Yeah. Well, Chris said too, and
so for the guys that are listening on iTunes and stuff, it's a welding mat, right? But it's got magnets on it.
Yeah. So this is the first one of its kind. Still has the grommets in it. So if you want to, nail it up against something or pin it up against something, you can. But what do we have all over our vehicles? Metal.
Yeah.
Right. So we put magnets in it and a slit so that you could wrap it around pipes. You could wrap it around whatever you needed to. Go ahead and it's a flame-resistant blanket. So it literally stops that flame from peeling up your wrap or peeling up the the paint, or just damaging wiring or harnesses or so on.
So describe what the slit's for. Are you supposed to stick your hand through that? And
not necessary. So if you've just got it like this as an example, right? And let's take a rod again, all right? And let's say we're getting ready
Wait a second here.
This doesn't look. Is this intimidating, Chris? Are we all right, bud? All right. So let's say you've got a line or something that you want to be able to fix.
Okay.
You can just wrap this around it.
Okay.
And so that way, when you're welding.
Oh, it doesn't get back
totally
behind it.
covered and so on.
Or if
so
you're doing an axle and it's a CV joint or a boot or something.
CV joint or a boot, yeah. And you can also take that hot block and wrap it around the boot if you're, fixing, let's say, like a shock mount or something, and you're getting ready to weld it up.
So let's explain to the listeners that are on iTunes and stuff. It's about, 20 inches long or so?
18 by 18.
18 by 18. It's a square welding mat that has magnets on it, and it's also got the grommets and stuff. These things are really, really cool. SolderWeld.com if you want to go check it out and purchase one. Obviously, you can see the trophy truck off-road repair kit, and you can also see the little carry kit as well.
Well, this is actually a T1 kit.
Yeah.
So some people of our audience may have got that joke. Chris brought it to our attention today that KOH was.
So KOH has T1, and Score uses trophy trucks, and I was making a suggestion to these guys if I were Dave Cole who runs KOH, and I got asked the question, what's the difference between a trophy truck and a T1? I'd be like, oh, the T1s are, the trophy trucks suck. They're not the same truck. These are T1s.
No, it's a T1.
Things.
This one's
so the guys at
above.
at Score decided to not let the organization KOH call the trophy truck class trophy truck. They have to call it T1,
which is ridiculous. You'd think it would just help them out anyway.
But listen, you know what? You got to hand it to Dave, man. He puts on a show, and the amount of work that goes into KOH is unbelievable, and just a stand-up dude.
How was it out there when you went? You had a good time?
It's crazy, man. I mean, Sublime was there. Sublime.
Really?
Yeah, Sublime put on a live concert Saturday night.
Holy crap.
Yeah, it's insane, dude.
And people are complaining about getting into the desert? Come on.
Yeah.
I'll pay whatever I need to pay to be able to see Sublime play.
What I love is we're sitting at home, when you're not there, you're sitting at home, you're supposed to be working, and you're watching, trophy trucks, or you're watching Ultra
T1s,
4.
yeah.
And, T1s,
Yeah.
trophy trucks, they suck.
They suck.
But, you're watching that stuff, and people are like, oh, my God, the coverage sucks. Well, we're out in the middle of the desert. I mean, there used to be a phone bush that you'd have to go to just to make a text.
Yeah.
And now we're watching a live race, and it's like nothing else. It's the best thing in the world. And and Dave, that guy just amazes me all the time. He
It's got to be a massive undertaking to do that every year.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
Well, what events do you got going on this year, Lance?
We'll be at the Mint here shortly. We also have the Salt Lake Off-Road Expo that's going to be coming up at the end of February.
So if anybody's up
Phil.
Yeah, Phil Rollins, great guy, man.
Yeah.
Great guy. If he's listening right now, kudos to you, Phil. He's out hustling every single year. He took the first year, and it was pretty small.
Yeah.
And went well, though. Second year, boom. Third year. And, I mean, it's cranking now. So they got some big names.
I met Phil in, I think we were doing Vegas to Reno. I forgot which race it was, but I got in the truck with him, and he introduced me. He turned me on to Hank 3. I mean, not turn me on, but,
I didn't go there.
Oh, good.
It's all right.
So, but, I mean, it was really cool. It was like, I really dig it now, and I listen to it all the time, and he's talked to me about some stuff that I've got planned in the future, and we were just driving forever. I don't remember. I think the car broke, and I just had to get in a truck and go the rest of the way to Reno or something. But it was probably Dave Cole's car because it didn't like me too much. It broke. It tried to kill me actually once. But
so if anybody's in the Salt Lake area, come up and say hi.
Yeah, Chris, come up.
Yeah.
You like driving and all.
I love driving.
Come hang out at the booth. Yeah, no, it's going to be an all-star cast at this year. Quite a few companies.
What's the date on that?
28th and 29th, I believe. February 28th and 29th, yeah. So that's good. And then
I got a Porsche thing going on in Florida. So.
Damn those Porsche guys.
Yeah. Those damn Porsches.
Gotta love them. Gotta love them, though. Yeah.
It sounds like you got some pretty cool stuff happening.
And then the Mint.
Yeah.
Are you coming out for the Mint this year?
I don't know. I was thinking about it. We'll see what happens. I want to see how busy I've been. This janky little show we got here has been taking up like 120 hours a week.
I hear you.
I got a question for you. Are you going to get back into a race car?
It's still undecided right now. So there's a long answer and a short answer, but the shorter answer is we weren't going to race full series anymore anyways. I didn't see the value in my sponsors having to pay for those types of things. Mm-hmm. So we were going to do select events that would draw more of a crowd, give them a better return on their investment, and do a little bit more to promote the sport of side-by-side racing instead of a race series.
Right.
So before I got hurt, we weren't going to keep racing a series anyways. So my goal has always been to do something that actually makes a difference. And we talked about it a little bit beforehand. I would like to do an off-road ride across the country, and my goal is to raise money for spinal cord research and give money to Red Bull Wings for Life. So I thought that was a much more advantageous way to get sponsors involved. And
I hope we keep talking about that.
yeah, and I really do want to keep talking about it. I think it's just in its infancy right now, and I think we can definitely make something happen with it. I would love to have you involved.
I'm 100% sure.
It would be cool.
Be involved.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
I'd love to do that.
The amount of experience that you have off-roading will definitely not go unnoticed on a trip like that. So, yeah.
So
it
rains and we have to winch people.
Dude, yeah, for sure.
Awesome. Give them real experience.
Yep. So I think it would be cool. And so to answer your question in a short fashion, I don't know. I would, I love racing. Racing's a passion of all of ours, and it would be cool to get back in a race car, but it has to be worth it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I don't want to just do it to go out there and win. I want to do it to go out there and show something, motivate people, do something that's meaningful, and show myself that I can do something that maybe I didn't think I could. So we'll see what happens. But for the most part, I just like getting out and riding and having fun with people.
Well, we definitely like having you around, obviously as well. We'd love to have you at the Mint back in Vegas again.
Ooh, that'd be cool.
Yeah, we've got SolderWeld's wild child Brad Callahan's going to bring his rig down. So I know you've seen him race quite a bit. He's out of control, but he is a one great racer. We're proud to sponsor him and keep him going.
Just score mostly on bikes. I just raced a score race in a. You know what? I did do best in the desert back in the day. I did race Dave Cole's car a couple times.
Right on.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, that's cool. Well, so everything else is going good with SolderWeld? You guys just kicking ass, taking names?
Yeah, we're doing the Easter Jeep Safari, which, Chris, you're going to be at, which would be great. And that is something, again, awesome. Get the Jeeps out there. And I don't know if you've ever even just seen the pictures of that, but thousands of Jeeps converging on Moab at one time. And literally, it's just it's madhouse.
Yeah.
Just a madhouse, but an awesome madhouse.
Yeah, have you ever seen Lions Back?
No.
Oh, you got to Google Lions Back.
Okay.
I drove my van up Lions Back.
Oh, you're kidding.
Yeah.
What is Lions Back? Super gnarly hill?
It's super gnarly. It's just a razorback kind of a thing. And the very beginning of it is so steep. You don't even see it well enough on video or anything, but it's so steep that it was just solid black tire marks. Greta would love that, but the solid black tire marks going up the face.
Dang, that's crazy.
And then
how wide are the trails?
It's one trail, and you have to go up and turn around and come back. And people have driven off the side. There's a super famous video of a Blazer like porpoising down the thing, and then comes off the side and arrows right into the sand. It was awesome.
Well,
pretty sure I've seen that.
Just in case anybody's having technical difficulties, we still have a little bit of the storm coming around. I think we might be a little spotty on our services, or on our video, but we'll keep the show going for the iTunes guys. But let's. You got anything else, or let's dip into talking with Chris, man?
Yeah, I want to hear some of those questions we got for Chris today.
Well, first thing I want to know is, I always wanted when I was little. I always wanted to grow up in California. That's where you grew up, right? Whereabouts?
Well, I kind of scattered around a little bit. I did start my racing in Virginia, and then
did you?
Yeah, and then my parents divorced, and we came back to California. That's where I was born, and then I lived in North Hollywood, and then Burbank, and then Cypress.
Oh, really?
Graduated high school just barely.
So you weren't lying when you said you grew up in the city.
Yeah. Yeah, when you talk about the dirt life, well, my dirt life was when they were doing road construction, and I'd go ride my little mountain bike, in the dirt.
Well, what the hell got you into dirt bike racing then?
My dad loved dirt bikes. My dad was on his way to becoming a professional ball player.
Oh, really?
So he was a pitcher, and he played AAA for the Dodgers and stuff. And
that's pretty cool.
He got my mom pregnant, and he had to give up his.
That's usually how it works.
Yeah. So I had two rules growing up. Don't do drugs and don't get a girl pregnant. That was it.
Everything else was free game.
Pretty much.
Done.
Yeah. I crashed every car he ever owned, and pretty much everyone I ever owned. But as long as I didn't get a girl pregnant and do drugs, I was okay.
That's pretty cool, man.
And my dad used to ride me on the, he had Bull Tacos, and he used to ride me on the gas tank.
Really?
Yeah. And it's probably why I don't have any kids. But, we raced, I'm sure we did more than one, but one of them we have a trophy from, or a finisher trophy from Hook and Ladder Enduro in 1977. So I was 6 years old, and I rode on the gas tank with him during the race. It was a desert race.
No way.
Yeah. And it wasn't too uncommon, I don't think. I mean,
Could you imagine if that was today?
Boy.
Like they don't even they get mad if you don't buckle your child in the safety seat.
Yeah.
Yep.
But I think Mike Young said that on your show, I think he said his dad used to ride him around the tank too.
Really?
Yeah, he has kids though, so maybe he had a plastic tank.
Put a little pad on there.
Yeah.
What is that? What got you into moto and all that stuff? Is like just being around it, or because there's a lot of kids that are around moto and then they just decide to go off in their own direction.
I don't know. My dad is a manly dude, and so I saw motocross as a super manly sport. And I remember the first race I went to. I was 5, and we were in Dallas, and we were actually moving to Virginia.
Oh, really?
And he stopped at a friend's place who owned a bull taco shop, and we went out to this track, and it was like snowing. All the trash cans were on fire, and these guys on the dirt bikes, they were they were racing, and I was like, oh my God, that is so manly.
Starting to understand Chris a little bit
better.
And the crazy thing is, fast forward a number of years, when I was probably 19, I went to Lake Whitney for an amateur race.
Dude, I love that track.
And I got there, and I'm looking around, and I'm just like, man, I've seen this before, And that, I'm getting goosebumps right now. That was the track that I went to when I was 5. And from that day on, when I was 5, that's all I wanted to do was race motorcycles.
Really?
Like, I loved
it's
football.
Just something clicked?
Yeah, it was all about motocross. And I loved playing football because I could hit people, and I had some anger issues. But motocross was where it was at. I played baseball and basketball and football, but motocross was the only thing that I ever really even thought about.
I can definitely agree with some of that stuff, man. When I was little, I always wanted to ride dirt bikes too. I didn't get to until I was about almost 12, but it was still all I thought about was dirt bikes. And when I got my first dirt bike, I asked my parents if I could put it in my room, and I slept with it.
Yeah. I remember that. I mean, I'm sure every kid that races motocross remembers their first motorcycle.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I remember,
what was yours?
Mine was a Honda XR75, and it was, my dad describes it was dropped out of an airplane before it was dropped out of a truck. And him and his friend rebuilt the whole thing for me. And
really?
And
sweet.
When it showed up in my living room on Christmas morning, the thing looked like it was brand spanking new.
Really?
Yeah.
That's cool.
And
that is super cool.
And I rode
They must have done a good job then.
Yeah. I wasn't very good. I wanted it so bad. That was probably the story of my life. Was I had
always had to fight for it.
Yeah, my heart was so big. I wanted to win more than anything. I didn't have the talent really to back it up.
I think that teaches you a lot of life lessons though. A lot of people that are gifted stuff, they take it for granted, right? Well, I know you pretty well in the time that minimal amount of time that we've spent together over the past 10 years or whatever, racing and stuff like that, and it resonates from you how hard of a worker you are and how much of a reality you understand. It's pretty cool, man. Not very many people are like that.
Yeah, I feel like I've lost a step, honestly. I mean, I used to be pretty aggro about getting stuff done, even when I was really hurt, and I always got stuff done, and I've definitely lost a step, and I need to figure out a way to get it back. But going back to the whole thing about motorcycle racing, what I love about it, it's so pure, and it doesn't matter. I've done so many other types of racing, car racing and off-road racing, motocross racing, motorcycle racing in general. It doesn't care how rich you are, how poor you are. None of that matters. My dad always used to say, it doesn't matter how you got here.
Yep.
What matters is you're lined up. And it doesn't matter if your bike is 3 years older than everybody else's. It just matters how bad you want to win, because that guy's going to come to the front. And
that was one of the things that bothered me so much about four-wheel racing, is that you can't have that quite the same go get 'em. You can't will yourself to the front like you can on a dirt bike.
Right.
You have to have
you outdrive the car.
Yeah, exactly.
And there's only maybe 4 people on the planet that can outride a 450.
Exactly.
And so what I was kind of getting at is, a lot of people they bitch about super rich people racing. Well, in car racing, yeah, that's a huge advantage. In motorcycle racing, it's an advantage, but I don't care who you are. Davey Castillo, had all the money in the world, and that guy still broke his legs to get as fast as he was. It doesn't matter how rich you are, you're going to break your legs, and you're still going to come back and that takes a super special person. I mean, if I had that much money, I don't know if I would come back after getting hurt bad,
That's a good point.
That's all I knew, and that was my way out that was my way to be someone really special, was on a motorcycle. And so that was my drive. And
Lance, do you know any other sports that can actually do that with people? Like, give them that type of drive?
No, I think, what Chris is saying is it's, what guy has the biggest heart out there?
Yeah.
I mean, who wants it
How
the
much
most?
willpower do you have?
I mean, you look at every other sport, and, you got team sports. And pretty much everything else out there is team sport. Yeah, when you're riding motocross, you've got your crew.
Right.
But they're not in your helmet.
Right.
They're not talking. They're not telling you to, make that turn. They're not telling you to
but
dig
that's
in.
a story for different.
Yeah.
Yeah. But on that note is that it's, like I said, it's you against the world. And, if you don't have a heart for it, then you aren't going to keep racing.
And I have a little bit different look on it. Like, let's say a basketball player. I mean, how hard is it for a guy to get a basketball and a hoop? And for someone like, Kobe, obviously, he's been in the news recently. For someone like that to rise above, that took a ton of heart. Like, that guy everyone in the world can play basketball. Sure. And that guy rose above all those guys.
Yeah, I
if you
agree
think
with
about
that.
how many motorcycle racers there are, that is nothing compared to how many basketball players there are.
That's a really good point.
Yeah, but you're not beating yourself up every single race
Right.
when you're on the basketball court.
Right.
You know what I mean? I mean,
Yeah.
how many basketball players do you see get
Paralyzed
or hurt for
Yeah.
that matter?
Right.
I
Right.
mean, there's a little bit, it's practice. When you're out there, racing, I mean, it's split-second decisions or you're going to get hurt.
Yeah. Yep.
So you've got to be on point no matter what.
I guess the adverse to that, though, too, is like when you're beating yourself up, even in the four-wheel stuff, I didn't really ever get hurt until this year, and I was out of the car, not in the car. But I've broken every bone in my body except for my humerus, and it's all from a dirt bike.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So, and obviously you've had injuries, too. So there is a little bit of argument point that, those other sports are still, you have to have the same drive and you have to have the same mentality to be the best, no matter what, if you're getting hurt or not.
Mm-hmm.
So, so you grew up riding then because you started pretty young.
I got to ride occasionally. I didn't get to ride like a lot of these guys get to ride.
Because where you lived?
Yeah, but also my stepmom was pretty much against riding.
Oh, okay. For the reason of not getting hurt?
Yeah, she was just a different, she didn't want me to get hurt. And so it was harder to go riding a lot. And my dad would get hurt, and, of course, that made it even worse. And,
yeah, because she saw that.
And then it kind of like, when I started riding and I started getting hurt, my dad was like, hey, you better not say anything to your mom.
Yeah.
Because unless you're really hurt. So otherwise you gotta just suck it up because she's not going to want you to go riding anymore.
Well, that's a lesson for you right there.
Yeah. So I learned to suck it up pretty early and make sure that I didn't complain too much.
What age were you in this area?
Probably like 10 to 12.
Okay, so you were still pretty young. Did you start like going to amateur nationals and stuff?
No, I was barely racing. I was still at 14. I was still in the 80 beginner class.
Oh, okay.
And I was getting lapped, and I was crying.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like the beginning of mine too. I didn't start racing until I was 12, and the first time I went out there, man, I did horrible. Yeah. So it was right around the same time. So did you enjoy it though? Still?
Oh, I enjoyed it a lot back then. I didn't enjoy losing. I hated getting lapped. I thought I was better than that. Mm-hmm. And then I started racing more, and I just wanted to originally I just wanted to beat my dad. That was my goal, and so I was in the beginner class, and then eventually I started being faster than him, and then it was like, well, I just want to win the novice class, and then he'd win the novice class, and it would be like at Ascot or something. Well, that was a different race than everywhere else, and it was like, well, I want to win the beginner class on the outdoor stuff too, and then it just kind of, well, you got to that point. Now it's like, man, I want to see what I can do against the juniors.
Yeah, there you go.
And that's just how it progressed.
I think that actually that brings up a good point too, because it kind of teaches you the evolution. You're not just going to college to graduate, right? You're like trying to move up and be better than everybody else, like during that time. Like, so that teaches you quite a bit of life lessons right there because you want to move up the ladder and want to do better. Like, do you see that kind of stuff with, traditional stick and ball sports, Lance?
Yeah,
A little bit.
but not in that same frame of mind. I mean, I'm looking at this right now, and I'm thinking about the sponsor. We have a father-son sponsor, Quador Racing.
Yep.
And they're awesome. And this kid, he goes out there and he puts everything into it. And even if he doesn't podium, he's out there making the turns.
Yeah. Making it happen.
But it's not, again, I keep coming back to it's not the team thing. At what point, I mean, let me ask you a question here. Is at what point from what you're talking about, 10 to 12, 13, 14, did you start podium? Did you start taking trophies? Did you start placing? Did you start
getting that feeling of winning?
Yeah.
Maybe when I was 14.
Okay.
And then 15, I was still in the 125 beginner class, I think. And I started because I was super aggressive and I took a lot of chances, I started doing things that other beginners weren't, they just weren't going to do it. And so
there you have it right there.
So I started going to the front there, and then same thing. And it was just a big ball sport, if you just wanted to take more chances than the next guy and you could somehow keep it on two wheels, you're going to win.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's actually really true. A lot of those guys, back in the day, would do that. So, did you ever end up racing any amateur nationals or anything, or what was the?
I went to, I went to Florida in 1990, I think.
What was that called? Like the Winter Olympics or something?
The mini Olympics.
Mini Olympics.
And that's 5 days or something of racing in a row. I went by myself. Well, I went with my friend, and he was racing also, but
hitched a ride.
No, he hitched a ride with me.
Oh, cool.
And he broke his foot before we even got to ride the track at Gatorback because we were jumping off. We were jumping into alligator pits.
Oh, dang.
Are they called alligator? I don't know. You
Yeah.
jump off these cliffs into the water, and I guess there's alligators in there or something.
Oh, crazy.
But he broke his foot because we were dumb. We were motorcycle racers, and we were jumping off some pretty big stuff. And,
I can't get hurt jumping into water.
Yeah.
It's a big ball sport.
Yeah. So he broke his foot and didn't get to race, and so here I am. I'm my own mechanic. I'm racing 125 and 250 stock and modified on the same bikes.
Dang.
And I'm sleeping in my van, and I'm kind of getting made fun of by Mike Metzger and stuff. Mike Metzger was my teammate on Suzuki Country Racing.
Yep.
And they were screwing with me a little bit. It soured our relationship after that race a little bit. It was funny. Now I look back on it, it was pretty hilarious, but I was struggling, and they're doing stuff like hiding cheese in my helmet and stuff. And
Dicks.
I mean, if you think about it, it's pretty funny, but the thing was I was struggling, I'm fending for myself, and I'm trying to get everything done, and they're screwing with me.
Yeah.
And I remember when I found out what they were doing, I left the starting gate. I was already in the starting gate, but we had time. I rode back to the pits, and I mowed down the team owner's grandson who was part of it. He was sitting in a lawn chair, and I went back to the pits and just cleaned him out.
Dang.
And then rode back to the starting line. I had an anger issue.
Yeah.
So
Doesn't sound like it.
So I did pretty good in that. I don't remember my exact results, and I
always wish that people would, when they would see those frustrations, I feel like I'm a good reader of people, and if I was in a situation where I saw somebody that was already hard on themselves, I would try to pick them up instead of do
Not
that.
Everybody's like that.
Well, I'm not trying to toot my own horn or anything, but I feel like if people were like that, it would help.
Yeah.
Well, especially in in that situation,
right.
You're doing everything you can just to get to the line.
Right.
Yep.
And I mean, I was eating peanut butter and jelly sandwiches.
Right.
I had no money. I didn't even have enough money to get home. I had to call the grandmother of the guy that I mowed down a lawn chair. I had to call his grandmother and ask her for money to get home. And I'd just beaten Ezra Lusk in the 250.
Yeah, we all know who badass Yogi was.
Now, I'm not going to say that I just straight up beat him. He crashed, and I was the only guy.
Dude, a win is a win.
Yeah, but I was the only guy he didn't catch,
That's good.
at the end. So I won the intermediate class on the motocross. I think I got second in super. I don't remember, honestly.
Well, for anybody that doesn't know amateur nationals too well, to win an intermediate class is a good title to win. That's haul in the mail, dude.
Yeah.
All right, so let's stop for just a second on that, though, Chris, because you bring up a really good point, and then George just backed it up, is what do you say to these kids out there that are doing the same thing. Because listen, I'm going to tell you right now, I know as well as you do that not everybody's parents are supportive in the sport, and you've got these young kids out there that want to ride, and they want to ride hard, and they want to win, and they don't have the money, they don't have the backing. I mean, what do you know? How do they keep it together? Because I'm sure guys fall out all the time.
Sure. Yeah, you just have to want it more than everyone else, and you have to work hard. And still to this day, you can get on an older bike. And there's a guy that's racing right now. His name is Jerry Robin. And that guy kind of made a name for himself by riding
bike,
a 1986 Honda CR250 at Loretta Lynn's.
Yep.
And he did good in the intermediate class against guys that were getting free motorcycles and paychecks.
Yep.
And that's what I'm saying is a good rider is a good rider. He's going to kick ass on a bike, even an older bike that's set up good. He's still going to do good.
And I think that goes for everything, Lance. Like when I started the side-by-side racing, I had no idea what I was doing.
Sure.
The only thing I knew was that I would work harder than everybody else. So I saved up all my money over a 5-year span, and I had one of my sponsors pay for the other half of my car, and I got my first side-by-side, which is not a very expensive car, but it was expensive to me. And it was a decent car, but I didn't know what I was doing. I just knew that I could go fast on a dirt bike, right?
Sure.
So I was like, okay, I'm going to try as hard as I can. First race, I got a reality check. And I was like, okay, now I know what to do. And then I just kept growing from there. So I think you got to put yourself in a position to get out there.
Yeah.
Whether you get last, lapped, whatever it is, your first race, do it. Get out there. Ride a shitty bike, ride an old bike. Figure it out, and then grow. Don't expect to be the winner of the first race. Just make sure you work hard and grow.
And in motocross, it's super rare that the racer, the kid, doesn't have a really good relationship with his parents or his dad.
Yeah, I can see that now. We've had a lot. I mean, we've talked for hours now, and we keep coming back to that. I mean, I'm sure there's people out there that don't have, that great support system, but that's one thing that you keep coming back to is that most guys that you grew up with racing, and you'd probably say the same thing, great support system from mom and dad.
I mean, my dad, my relationship with my dad we were just like this, we were best friends, and it's the way it is a lot of racers. And I don't want to make it sound like I was poor. I wasn't poor if I wasn't racing motorcycles, but it is so damn expensive to race motorcycles at that level when you have 2 motorcycles and then you have a practice bike.
Well, a basketball costs $10-$20. A motorcycle costs $5,000-$10,000.
Right.
Anybody can put a hoop up in their backyard.
Right.
Right.
It's a different level of commitment for the parents and for the family.
Yeah. But it's a real close thing. And my dad, he would have gone to every race with me, but he couldn't. He had to work, And he did. He gave me. I look back on it, and I wish I would have trained more. I wish that I would have given the effort that he was asking me to give. My dad didn't pressure me. In a way, he pressured me, but in a way, he didn't. He wanted me to be able to look back on it and say that I tried the best I did. And I should have listened to him because I look back on it, and I'm not super happy on what I did. I mean, I felt like I really dropped the ball because I felt like if I trained more, and I didn't know about it, but I still didn't give it a good effort. But if I trained, man, I think I would have been.
Yeah, but bro,
pat yourself on the back with it though. Hindsight's 20/20, dude.
Yeah, Chris. I mean, we can all have regrets. We can all think there.
I got no regrets, not even one letter.
Shit.
I love that.
No, but I mean, let's go a little bit further though. You literally hit the top of the moto game.
No, I got to the top level. I didn't get to the podium in the top level.
There's a lot to be said for the stuff like that, and that was one of the questions that I wanted to ask you too. Is so you went through and you did decent in your amateur stuff, but you made it to a level that most people don't get to. You made it to the top level of a sport. Even me as a up and comer, I was a little bit behind you in my motocross career, but I looked up to you when I saw those cards. I thought that the riding in space card was so cool. Like I idolized that. And for me being a kid, that's very, very cool for me to have somebody like you to look up to. So whether I knew what was going on behind the scenes or not didn't matter. I only knew how cool you were in my head, right? So that level is something that most people don't get to achieve, dude. So you got to give yourself some credit for that.
Yeah. It's a, I don't know, it's a double-edged sword. I made it there, and I'm really proud of that. I had a great time. I made some really good friends. But man, if I just worked out a little bit harder, I think that's Scott Myers up forever. You know?
Your buddy Scott Myers.
Yeah. By the way, I did beat him at the Naked Nationals at Binghamton.
Sweet.
We were staying there, and Myers somehow, after too many silver bullets, came up with the idea that he was going to jump the triple jump the next day naked.
Uh-oh. And
he went out there, and he still had his clothes on, and Brian Roth and Lance Smale, Kyle Lewis, we were all staying there, and so Brian Roth, who we called Slippy, he was sleeping in my van too. He was like
Slippy and Mooney.
Yeah, he was like and then we had Lammy, and we had Smaley. Everyone, I don't know why, but
everybody has a why.
Yeah. So
like all these rappers with Lil in front of their name.
Yeah. So we were listening to Chris Cross back then, and so
make it jump.
So we hear this bike out there, and I'm still sleeping in the bed, and Slippy's up front, and I'm like, who's out there? He's like, Myers. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know how he's even awake right now. And I said, is he naked? He's like, no. I'm like, hey, Slip, go warm my bike up. I jump out with my boots on, a helmet, and goggles.
You got it?
And I went out there and busted out the triple jump naked. Dude. Full on naked, no underwear, nothing.
That's epic.
So I called Myers out. So Myers comes back to the trucks, and it's kind of a longer story, but he gets naked and he goes out there, and pretty soon we're going at 100%. And we're not wearing any clothes.
So I don't know if you know, Lance, but this is going to be the segment that I clip, and we're going to post it on social media.
Yeah, I was just saying. I was wondering why you didn't have kids again.
So anyway, Myers is a big bullshitter, but he can back up a lot of it, unfortunately, because he's cocky. So anyway, we didn't have cell phones and shit, so we go back to town. We go back to Binghamton, and we were staying at the track under like my friendship with the Skutniks.
Oh, cool.
And yeah, it didn't turn out cool. So so we go back to Binghamton, and Myers calls his wife, or I don't remember if they were married. I think they were. And she's like, Myers, you're so full of shit. You know, you didn't do that. So we bought those disposable cameras.
Nice.
And we go back to the track, and the town was like 20 miles away. So we get back there, and the place is full. Like there's 50 guys riding.
Dang.
And we're like, what the hell is going on? This is a private track. This is our private track, you know? It's not a public place at all.
And they were all riding there?
Yeah. And so we were like, what the hell's going on? Well, our pit area looked like a nuclear bomb went off because we'd been staying there for a couple weeks. So there was like probably a couple beer cans and
a couple of cases.
Laundry and bikes torn apart. I think my 250 was like probably had the piston sticking out, just like sitting there. So these guys parked as far away from us as they could get because they were probably scared. They're out riding, and we pull in, and everyone's piled in my van or someone's van, probably Smales or something. And Myers says to me, he says, Mooney, you won't go out there and start passing guys naked. And I was like, Slip, go warm my bike up.
Oh, no.
So we go out there, and Myers did too. We go out there, and we start passing these guys, and we are just naked. They have their wives and girlfriends and kids, and we are naked. And we're going so fast. We're pros, you know, and these guys were not pros at all. And we're doing the triple jump, and we're just going, you know, full throttle and racing each other, like getting roosted and everything. And we went back. We're laughing our asses off, you know, of course. And we get back, and everyone, they all left. They didn't stop to talk to us for some reason. So fast forward back to the 500 National. I get there, and I'm like, you know, I don't remember what happened in my qualifier, but I had to race the last chance.
Yeah.
And so this is the last year of the 500 Nationals. And so I won my last chance. And I mean, everyone's going crazy. The crowd's cheering and everything. All the flaggers are waving their flags. And I'm like, man, this is what it's like to win. You know, it's like, yeah, this is so cool. So I pull off the track, and they pull me over to interview me. And I'm just like, I'd never won. I'm racking my brain. I'm like,
what do I say?
Do they interview the last chance guy? I don't remember, you know, like I'm confused. I'm like, I don't remember them interviewing the last chance. So the guy's interviewing me, you know, and it's going really good. And all of a sudden it's like, you know, he's like, so I hear you got to ride some out here. I'm sure it really helped you out. And I'm like, yeah, man, the Skutniks really hooked me up. I was able to practice here a lot. That's what, probably why I was able to win. And he's like, and the announcers, and it's in front of like probably 20,000 people. And the announcer's like, I don't know about you, but it gets really hot here in the summer. And
Great.
I just feel like taking my clothes off. And I'm just like, huh? And my friends are like buckled over laughing. And yeah, so the group that was out there were all the flaggers. And so during the race, one of my friends
went up and told him
the story, and so they announced it during the race, and everyone's just laughing their asses off at me.
That is so awesome.
So embarrassing. But
so is that your claim to fame these days?
Yeah, I won the Naked Nationals.
That's awesome.
I can promise you that not very many people have that story.
Yeah.
No, I don't know if I'd be willing to bet nobody else has jumped the triples at naked besides me and Myers.
Those aren't the big, small jumps either. So
no, they weren't. But we had to bust out.
Oh man, that's pretty awesome. So, well, like we were talking about, you did make it to a high level of sport. We'll call it. What were some of the top things that you remember? I mean, you rode Supercross.
Yeah, I struggled at Supercross. We didn't have tracks to practice on.
So you like nationals more?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I love to jump. I love to do big jumps, but Supercross wasn't about big jumps. It was about timing.
You've always been good at timing jumps and things like that, though.
No, not. I mean,
from what I've seen.
Yeah, but I actually got smarter as I got older.
Oh, okay.
And I learned how to do some stuff better. But back then, I mean, like Anaheim 1 would come around. Back then, it was just Anaheim. We just raced one Anaheim. Mm-hmm. That was like the first time I'd seen a Supercross track.
Oh, really?
And the morning of the race for practice. And
what'd you think? Scared shitless?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, because back then.
Have you ever walked a Supercross track, Lance? Dude, when you go see those whoops that they go through, like the bumps that they have to hit, they're like 3.5, 4 feet high, man. They're big. Mm-hmm. Like if you tuck a front wheel or something in there, it's not going to feel good. Like it's bad news.
And back in my day, and I talked to David Bailey quite a bit, a total hero of mine.
Oh yeah.
And
hero
our
of
tracks,
many.
Yeah, our tracks. The track builders didn't know how to build the tracks, so
Yeah, they were just kind of shooting it.
Our third jumps were peaked like the first jumps.
Yep.
And so you could come up 2 feet short and you're going to break both your arms.
Yeah.
Or you go long, you're going to break both your arms or maybe your ankles or whatever. Yep. And so it was.
Just think about landing a dirt bike on something like that.
Right. So it was, our timing had to be spot on. And there's a couple things that come into play for Jeremy. Jeremy had a Supercross track in his backyard.
Jeremy McGrath?
Yeah. I mean, it was probably 2 bikes wide.
Yeah.
It was very, very small. If you looked at it now, the factory guys would laugh. They'd just be like, I'm not riding on that trail,
Well, but practice is practice.
Yeah, but, so Jeremy was riding Supercross all the time and nobody else was. And then you take into account Bale, Jean-Michel Bale left the sport. Bradshaw quit. David Bailey was hurt. Ricky Johnson was hurt. Those are like some super heavy hitters.
Yeah, absolutely.
That got out of the sport and opened up a gap for McGrath to come in and do what he does, do what he did, and not taking anything away from him, but he stepped in.
Perfect time.
Yeah, yeah.
When did they start professionally designing the courses?
Well, they worked on it just like the racers did, like just over time, everyone got better at their jobs. Yeah. And nowadays the tracks are designed. Right. And what's crazy to me is these guys go out first lap of practice and they know the triple jump's going to be, it used to be 65 feet. I think now it might be 70, but they know exactly that's the triple. I know I need to be at this RPM. They don't even need to look. They just know it. So the first lap of practice.
And when he says RPM, you're not looking at it, you're feeling it.
Right. Yeah.
You hear it.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's a lot different now. And back in my day, like the factory guys weren't even doing the triple jumps all the time until maybe the second practice,
Sure.
Because it was just, they weren't the same every week. They tried, but they weren't.
The
takeoff would be steeper. In fact, the smaller class, like the 250 class now, was the 125 class back when I raced. And there was always one triple you couldn't do.
Right.
One triple was mostly doable. And then if it was too easy, they'd throw in a bunch of whoop-de-doos right before it just to make sure you got screwed up. Because you'd be slipping the clutch or shifting gears on the face.
And there was always one crazy guy that would go try it and he would weed it up. Yeah.
Mike Metzger.
Yep. and he would just like totally eat it, or he'd be on a 167.
Yeah.
I remember seeing like when we went to Seattle one year when we raced Supercross. I remember seeing David Villeman, and he was in the 125 class like me, and I remember seeing him out there, and I was just like, how the fuck is that guy going so fast? And he like came out the track, he's like, yep, 167, buddy. I was like, so you're just gonna tell me that? Yeah, because I'm not gonna do anything about it. Like he's gonna smoke me either way, but like, what am I gonna do? Go tell somebody and they're gonna believe me?
Right. Well, yeah, I mean, only the top 3 bikes get. I don't know how he got away with a 167, but
I don't know. It was a long time ago.
He would be on the podium.
Yeah, I don't know if he was, but yeah, I was like so confused in my head, but I wasn't gonna do it anyway, so it didn't matter.
So Supercross, I struggled at a lot because of the timing and everything. But when it came to big jumps, like on outdoor stuff or free riding or stuff, I was pretty good at that. I liked to jump.
What gear are you guys riding in on Supercross?
Well, back then, I'd race 125 and 250 because I was trying to get as much track time as I could.
Sure.
Because
most of the gears you would use is second and third, sometimes fourth in the whoops.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just because you want to build speed. But nowadays,
we weren't doing that back then in the whoops. We weren't skimming whoops like this now.
Not the same, but we would still ride a gear high.
You would, but I was quite a bit before you. So.
Yeah.
I was doing Supercross.
I wasn't ever like super. I wasn't good at the whoops. I wasn't ever like Casey was insane good at the whoops, but I wasn't bad because I'm tall. Mm-hmm. So like I would get through them pretty easy. So if I rode in a gear higher, I could come out at the top of that gear.
Right.
So it was a little bit easier.
Right. I struggled.
Yeah. Yeah. Wouldn't you say shocks are different nowadays?
Yeah, shocks and height makes a big difference though too. And I don't mean that I'm just tall. So like it helped me a lot.
Just call me fat.
Yeah. Both. Yeah, but no, it does help. I mean, it's and when he says that they're not easy to go, they're not.
Who's the rider that we were just watching in that last race? It was 6'5".
Oh, that's Benny Bloss?
Yeah.
Bloss.
That dude's super tall.
Really tall.
He could probably get through the whoops like a boss.
Yeah. So you remember the Mickey Thompson series?
Yeah, I remember that.
So I did way better in that. Like I was pretty close. They cut the series down, but when they did, I was pretty close to being able to podium those.
That's pretty sweet, man, because there was some heavy hitters in that.
Right, but it was all about just balls, like, and you had these flat landers.
You could send it super
God.
far.
And I'd go to Race Tech, and Paul Theed was there, and I'd be like, I want to be able to jump off your warehouse and land in the parking lot without bottoming my suspension. And that's exactly how I told him to set my bike up. And,
Dang.
And I would just launch these jumps.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen those videos like when they hold a side-by-side up in the air on a tractor and they just let it hit the ground? That's what, something gnarly like that, but 10 times higher.
Yeah.
You'd hit these jumps in like fourth gear on a 250, and the jump was only as high as that shelf right there, but it was like a curb because they ran the trucks and the buggies and all that stuff and the quads. Because
opposite direction.
Quads. Can we say quads are gay on the show?
Yeah.
Okay.
Quad gods.
Yeah. So they'd run them the opposite way. And so the jumps would be like this, but the motorcycles would have to hit them backwards. And you'd hit these like steep-ass jumps, fourth gear pinned. Just boom! And you just fly up in the air and flat land. And
how high are you getting up?
20, 30 feet probably.
I'd say like a solid, 15, 20 feet.
Yeah.
It was, but you're going way down the track. And you could always pick out the new guys because in practice, they'd be the ones going over the bars. Because your bike wasn't set up. It was a special setup. It wouldn't work for Supercross.
Can you imagine if you knew how to Bubba Scrub back then? You could be winning so much.
Those were too steep and short,
Dang.
But, I like those races because it was less skill and more.
How was the payback? Good?
It was.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you did good in your heat race, you got paid points and money for passing people in the main.
Really?
So, well, I wanted to get into to your injuries. Do you have any more cool stories to talk about when you were racing pro?
Sure, it was awesome. I can't really think of them off the top of my head, but
I know.
I loved my friends. I loved hanging out with all my privateer guys. We all were in vans.
How about traveling across the country and stuff, man? I'm sure you guys got into some wild things.
So, yeah. So, like one of the things, we didn't have GPS. We didn't have cell phones.
Yeah.
And I would call my dad collect. And they had these automated things, and I'd call him and I'd say maybe Virginia Beach to Redbud or, to whatever city that was in. And he'd deny the collect call. And then I'd call back in like 20 minutes, and he'd accept the collect call. and then he'd have the whole directions ready for me to write down, and that's
Oh,
how I
cool.
got across the country.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, and
Well, you remember when MapQuest finally came out,
Yeah,
and that
you'd
was
print out your-
bullshit. That thing, half the time it got you lost anyway.
Yeah,
So
I didn't even use it.
yeah,
yeah,
but
so
that's brilliant.
so
That is such a good way. It's just like, hey, Dad, a notification. Ding,
Right.
ding, ding.
Well, could you imagine him trying to do all the directions while it's on a collect call?
That's
Yeah.
what I mean. Yeah, that's such a good way to do it.
But yeah, it was a lot of fun, and I had some really good friends. I didn't stay in touch with them too much after I got hurt because we didn't have social media and we didn't have cell phones, and so I lost touch because back then it wasn't the same. You just didn't show up to races in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
It really wasn't. Even like when I started doing it, like Ricky James was the one that paved the way for me and stuff. But what were some of the memorable moments that you had in your professional tenure as a motocross raider?
I don't know. It was mostly, in my eyes, it was mostly a letdown because I just didn't finish like I felt like I should
So
have finished.
I wanted to say this a little while ago, and like I said, I don't think you give yourself enough credit, but I will give you kudos for having that mindset, because that's a mindset of a champion. You're never good enough, right? It's just how you deal with it. And I know from what you've been through in your life that you were able to push through a lot of things, and it's because of that same mindset. So not that you're wrong, right, indifferent, whatever it is, having that mindset has definitely made you who you are, for sure.
And we talked about this earlier too. Like, we didn't grow up normal.
Right.
We didn't go out partying. My friends in high school, I didn't go when they went riding up in Hesperia. Like my friend Bobby Hubbard, he was talking earlier. We didn't go riding. I went practicing all the time, and then I was racing. If I wasn't hurt, I was racing every weekend.
Yep.
And another thing about like the car guys and stuff, these guys think that they're such badass racers and they're so hardcore. And I'm like, bitch, I used to race 18 times a weekend.
Yeah.
Yep. 18 motos a weekend, racing 3 classes, racing Friday night, Saturday, and Sunday. I race more in a weekend than you race all year.
Yep. And all the money that you won went straight back.
Yeah, it wasn't much, but
right.
You know what I mean? Like,
but it's still.
These guys, it really irks me when these guys talk about, how hardcore they think that they're hardcore racers. And I'm like, I mean, they are, some of them, but mostly it's fun. It's like, don't take it so seriously. You're having a great time. You're lucky to have a job that pays for it. And, and it's a bad attitude to have too, because I'm angry about it sometimes because I feel like I missed it. I feel like I missed my calling.
Complacency is one of the worst things that a human can have, though.
Yeah,
it really is, man.
But it's hard to overcome it,
But having the attitude that you have, you're never complacent. You always want to be better. You always thinking about what could I have done. Like we used to do this every time. We have an 8-hour drive home from California after the short course races.
Mm-hmm.
What do we talk about for 8 hours?
Racing.
How we can get better, even if we won.
Right.
How do we do it better the next time?
Right. Yeah.
And that's the way that the whole team operated, because I have the same mindset as you.
Right. So, I mean, I always think about the stuff that I could have done better, actually. I mean, every once in a while I'll think, man, that was really cool. Like that story about, Binghamton, that was a great time,
Yeah.
There were times when I was riding up front with people that were way better than me, and I was holding my own, and I can't really remember them, but I know there was a couple there, and, so I just kept, I always wanted to just pin the throttle and get to the front, and that's why I got hurt so much. I mean, when I had my big injury, I'd already been hurt a lot before that, so motocross prepped me pretty good for getting hurt.
I feel like a lot of people that are like, and I've seen this in motocross in general, and coming out of motocross or coming out of some sort of environment where you have that high intensity level and stuff. A lot of people are successful in business like that. There's a lot of business leaders that maybe they haven't raced motocross, but they have the same mindset. They're like, go, 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 win, win, win. What can I do better? What can I improve on, and all those things. And I think that's a personality trait that is very, very valuable. I really do.
I agree with that.
It creates a lot of success. And whether you think you're successful or not, there's a lot of people that see that success in you. So you did all that cool stuff, man. You rode naked at Binghamton, bitching. But you did get hurt pretty bad.
Yep. So I ended up riding a bike I shouldn't have been riding, and there used to be a pretty big double
Well, put
jump.
us in the context. Like, where were you at and what time?
I was at Glen Helen.
Okay.
This had been 1994, and I had a brand new 90, maybe it was 95. I don't remember. I try not to dwell on it too much, but I had a brand new Honda that broke the day before, and I also had cut my cast off my arm the 2 days before. So, but I had to get in shape. I had to get back out on the track and everything, and so I borrowed one of my old race bikes back from my buddy, and it was a 125. And as you remember, 125s just got wrung the F out.
Yeah, it was like driving your side by side on the rev limiter the whole time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Just no brakes. Like sometimes you wouldn't even shut off the throttle. You'd hit the brake. You just leave it wide open because you didn't want to have that little lag of.
And you've heard a two-stroke, right? They're just like a buzzing bee. Yeah, like going crazy.
A lot of clutch and a lot of abuse. So anyway, I was riding this thing. It was a good bike, but going over this jump at Glen Helen, if there was a pack of 40 on the pro gate, I'd say 10 guys would do it, maybe. And I was one of the guys doing it. I rode Glen Helen all the time. It was my
you like big
track,
jumps?
and I cannot lie.
Yeah.
And so I was hitting this jump on a 125. It was everything you had.
Yep.
It was clutching it up the face and getting everything out of it. And in one lap, the bike just kind of bogged on me pretty bad. And bikes, two strokes, when you're at the rev limiter and on the clutch, they don't bog.
Right.
Like, there was something wrong. Something broke. And I found out later a reed pedal had broken off. And
it chipped it. That was common back then.
Yep. And so on a motorcycle, when you are going off the face of a jump and you lose power, the thing goes over the front.
Right.
So I knew I was not going to make it on the bike. I knew the bike was going to go
So you
in
jumped off?
upside down. So what they call step through the handlebars. I stepped on the crossbar pad.
Yeah.
And I tried to launch myself over the second jump to land on the downside.
Yeah.
And I was probably in fourth gear pinned. I was going fast, and it was a big high jump. And it wasn't supposed to be a double jump, but
somehow you guys made it into one.
And so I ended up coming up short on making it to the other side, probably by 3 or 4 feet, and I landed feet first into the face of the second one.
Oh my gosh!
And both my legs went right out through my feet, and and I was in the air, and first thing I thought was like, I'm gonna break my arm again or my wrist or whatever was broken, like because I was fresh out of the cast.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh shit, that was dumb. I'm gonna get hurt. And then, I was like, oh, I'm gonna break my femurs. I'd never broken a femur before, but I was like, I'm gonna break my femurs. And when I landed, both my ankles, I knew my ankles were broken, but I was okay. I was like, man, my femurs are still there. I'm good. I'm in a lot of pain, but I've dealt with this before. I've broken my ankles before.
Right.
What I didn't realize
So
was,
you kind of knew?
Oh, I knew right away. I was bending my legs, my knees, and my boots were kind of binding up a little bit in my knees, and I didn't understand why. And Alpine Stars sponsored me, and I had a brand new pair of boots on, and I was thinking, man, they gave me the wrong size boots. I can't really bend my knees that good. And then I'm sitting there, and I'm like, wait, I've been here for like 5 hours. I would have noticed that.
Yeah.
And then it started registering what I did.
Oh man!
And I realized that I crushed my heels, I crushed my ankles. It was just a bad scene, and so I was laying there on the track. It was a practice day, no ambulance, and I'm just laying there. Just my friend came over, and he was my best friend at the time, and he didn't know what to do. And I'm like, get these boots off right now. Just get them off because the swelling's going to start.
So that's one of the things that I told everybody is that's exactly what we learned, and that's the reason that we always take off our gear right away.
Yeah. So he pulled my boots off, and both my feet were just hanging straight down. My toes were like pointing at the ground.
Wow.
Because I was on my back, and
during that, so you had all the broken bones, but did you have tendon and ligament and muscle damage and things like that too?
Big time.
Yeah.
Yeah, because when I landed, my left ankle rolled to the inside, and my right ankle rolled to the outside, and when you roll to the inside of your ankle, you destroy like all your ligaments and tendons and all that. and my Achilles tendons were bad, and my heels were crushed. So anyway, it was it's kind of a long story. No ambulance, so I got in the back of the pickup truck, and we had a cooler. And
How'd you get over to the pickup truck from the
They
track?
brought the pickup truck to the side of the track, and then my
Okay.
friends,
Load
Ray
you up.
Crum, Ray Crum lifted me up and put me in the back of the pickup truck between the two bikes, and my feet were just laying there, and we drove home. We hit rush hour traffic going home.
Oh, fuck.
It took a long time. I think it took like 8 hours to get to the hospital.
And if anybody doesn't know where Glen Helen is, it's in San Bernardino, California. So it's like super sucky getting out of there.
Yeah, and I lived in Cypress, so we had a long drive on the 91 freeway, and so we got to my house, and my dad had a pager. We didn't have cell phones. My dad had a pager, and we got home, and my friend text my dad or whatever, paged him 911, 911, 911. So my dad calls, and he gets home, and I'm just laying on the couch. I mean,
what are you going to do?
Yeah, well, I knew I wanted my doctor to operate on me. Like,
Yeah.
I didn't want to mess around. I knew it was pretty bad. I didn't know how bad, but I knew it was bad. And so we couldn't find the doctor. My dad got home, and he called the doctor, and he couldn't find him. He was on his day off. He was playing golf. And so finally they find him. I don't know if he can get in trouble. It doesn't even matter. It's been so long. But he's like, I want you to go to this hospital, and I'm going to go there on my day off, and I'm going to check in, and I'm going to check on a patient. And once I check in, if you get rushed into the emergency room, I'm automatically your doctor because we have history.
Got it.
So I waited in the hospital parking lot for my doctor to show up, and then rolled in after him. And first night, he's like, we're going to have to amputate both legs. And I was like, are you kidding me right now?
Yeah,
Like,
that's not something that you hear easily.
I was like,
Could you imagine hearing that, Lance?
No way.
yeah.
I'm blown away right now just thinking about how long it took for you to get to the damn hospital.
Yeah, no pain pills, nothing. Just, I mean, so
Well, we weren't pussies back then, were we?
I would have taken them if I had them. But, I mean, so we're there, and I'm like, Mike, is my doctor's name. I was like, Mike, you've operated on everything that I have. And I was like, I heal up better than anyone you've ever seen. You've told me that.
Yeah, like,
It's
fix it.
Just give me a chance.
Yeah.
You know, like,
Yeah.
I said we can amputate later. And so he couldn't operate on me for like 2 days, I think, 3 days.
Oh, man.
Because of the swelling?
Yeah,
or
I had
just-
fever. I had what do they call fracture blisters. So
Sure, yeah.
it was blistering up and popping and bleeding. And
Yeah.
I had one of those, too.
and so he flew in, a friend or his friend flew in on his own dime or whatever, but he flew in a guy from Aspen, and they worked on me for 13 hours.
Holy smokes.
And then
That thing was grenaded then.
yeah.
Come on, you know about that. What,
Oh, I definitely know
what are you
about
holy
that. but-
smokes and about?
Well, I mean, hearing it and feeling it's different. But, yeah, I mean, that's nuts, dude.
So they couldn't even rod anything because everything was mush. That's the medical term.
Right.
It was mush. So what
Gosh,
they did is
dang.
they glued everything together, and then I was in a wheelchair for a year, and they went in and broke everything and straightened it out, replaced like most of my heels, a lot of my left ankle with cadaver.
Sure.
And then after that, it was just a series of rebuilds, you know. It was like a 125.
Yep.
It was just like, let's try this. Let's try that. Let's try this. I mean, 15 operations, you know, like the largest bone grafts I've ever seen off of hips. My incision on my hips is like, I don't know, probably 5 or 6 inches long, or at least a solid 5 inches long.
It's crazy.
And so anyway, they did all that stuff, and I was in a wheelchair on and off for about 3 years. Fourth year, I don't know, I guess fourth year came around, they did something, and I was able to go back racing.
That's crazy.
I went racing with both my.
Did
well,
it
this
hurt or
ankle-
no?
Oh God! Oh, so I was on Vicodin.
Yeah.
I had a pretty healthy Vicodin habit going. I was on it every day for 9 years.
Just to get through the day.
Yeah, I mean, I could have sat on the couch.
Yeah.
But I wanted to do stuff, so I was actually doing
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
I was pretty active for being as jacked up as I was. But I was taking 20 Vicodin a day, you know, so I could do pretty much anything.
Sure.
And I went back racing, had probably the most successful year of my professional career. I remember they brought back the Mickey Thompson series in
I'm sure you
98.
were taping it up, doing all that stuff, yeah.
Taping it,
Doing everything you could.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I couldn't ride during the week, but so they brought back this Mickey Thompson series. They called it the U.S. Hot Rod Off-Road thing, and it was nationwide. But really, my only competition was Spud Walters and Scott Myers.
Spud was a pretty fast dude, though, man.
Yeah, he was. But Myers screwed with his head so much he would crash every once in a while.
Yeah.
What Myers couldn't do, speed wise against Spud, he would get in his head. And we were like the three amigos. Like we did everything together. We had so much damn fun because we didn't have any competition.
That's cool though.
And it was really fun. Well,
You have any friends like that you grew up with, the three amigos kind of things? Yeah.
Oh yeah, totally.
I think we went to Canada. We were up in Vancouver, British Columbia, or something like that, and I broke my leg again. It was a second to last round. I was in the points lead when it was adjusted, either first or second in points, but I was on a roll to probably win it. I think. Who knows? But anyway, I broke my leg.
Yeah, you were doing good.
In the heat race, and broke it pretty bad. Bent the rod and stuff. And
that was the same leg that was fucked up?
That was the left one, yeah. So I went to the hospital there thinking I'm in Canada. I'm going to get like a good money on this operation. It's not going to cost me as much. And they wouldn't even touch it. My ankle was so hammered. My heel wasn't even attached anymore. Oh, and during this series, we were in Phoenix, actually, and this is in 1999, and me and Spud and Scott are sitting in my van kicking back at the track, and this dude walks by, and Spud's like, "Hey, Ridge, that's what you need." And by now I'm getting called Ridge and not Mooney. And so he's like, "Ridge, that's what you need." And I'm like, "What? Keg of beer?" Because the guy was carrying a keg of beer. He was working for Budweiser. I was like, "No, look at his leg, dummy." And I look, and he's wearing a prosthetic. And they start laughing, and I laughed, and I was like,
That's when you decided.
Yeah, I was like, that guy's walking better than I'll ever walk in my life right now. So I took it seriously. I was like, you're right. I think that's what I'm going to do. I didn't say that, but
they were just fucking around, but it like hit home. Yeah.
Yeah. So I broke my leg, and I didn't really care.
Yeah, but how far along were prosthetics back then?
Well, this is in '99. I mean, that guy was walking better than I was ever going to walk. So to me,
the proof is in the pudding, just in the visual.
Yeah.
So I started like paying attention to people that had prosthetics, and I'd even go if it looked like they were doing good, I'd go talk to them. I'd be like, "Hey, what's it like that?" And the guys that were missing legs, they'd look at my leg, and within like a half a second, they're like, "Bro, you need to cut that off."
Yeah.
So anyway, so I broke it in Canada. I ended up driving myself home from Canada, like on a bunch of Vicodin and Demerol, and
with a broken leg.
Yeah, and they wouldn't even fix it. So it was on my dash.
Like I could just sit here and listen to this guy all fucking night.
Dude, you know how far Canada is from Southern California?
Oh, shit, these stories are killing me.
So I had my leg up on the dash. I had a Ford van. My leg's up on the dash, trying to keep the swelling down, doing the responsible thing.
Yeah, right.
And I hit a bump.
That's so responsible. That's responsible.
Demerol Vicodin, responsible
Canada.
leg lift. Perfect. Yeah, gotcha.
And I remember I popped a whole bunch of Demerol right before the border because I was afraid they were going to take my pills. Well, I learned that day that Demerol is not the same as Vicodin, and I didn't make it very far past the border before I was doing loops.
Yeah, I
just pulled over, and I was out for like 12 hours, and
anyway, you made it over the border.
I soldiered home, and I was figuring for sure, I mean, it's been like.
So when you have to get gas, what are you doing?
Just honk the horn.
And somebody will come out?
Yeah. Like even someone else pumping their own
What about
gas.
when you got to take a piss? You piss in a Gatorade bottle?
Yeah. And you're taking so much Vicodin, you don't have to take a shit.
Yeah.
So,
damn, dude.
So anyway, so I got home, and I figured for sure the doctor's going to amputate. Well, he didn't. Unfortunately.
Same doctor?
I was ready. Yeah. And actually, it ruined our relationship because he wouldn't amputate. He kept trying to fix it, and I'm like, your idea of success and my idea of success are two different things.
Right.
You think that it's successful if I can sit on the couch and watch football and occasionally get up and grab some beer.
You're like, no, I want to go.
I want to race.
Yeah.
Or I want to do this. I don't want to sit on the couch. And anyway, so he operated. Well, now my leg has got a huge hook to it because it was bent. I didn't go to the doctor. I don't think I saw him for maybe a week and a half after I broke it.
Jesus, dude.
I was just bummed. I was done. I just lost a national championship in my eyes. And so and then I didn't talk to Scott or Spud for probably 10 years.
Really?
Yeah, just they were my racing buddies.
There's some situations in life, and not everybody's is different, but you put yourself in a position where like you can't get out of that little hole that's in your you're just like, what the hell did I do? Like, why can't I like do better? Like, and with his mindset being like always wanting to do better and having to go through all that, that whole week must have been fucking torture.
No, I don't know. I just didn't care. I really didn't care anymore.
Yeah, but that's not you though. That's what I'm saying. That's
I mean, you think you say that, but what was going through my head was, I didn't want to live.
Your career's
That's
over.
what I'm saying though. Is you get in that fucking dark space, man. That sucks.
And I got there. I mean, that's how I was able to walk in to a doctor and get my leg cut off because, my dad. Nobody wanted me to do it. My dad was against it. Everyone was against it, and I was just like, you guys don't understand. I'm not going to be alive in 3 or 4 years. Like, if the Vicodin doesn't kill me, I'm so depressed. I'm so like. The Vicodin was messing with my head so much. I was like, I'm not making this,
Some of that stuff is hard for any of our audience or anybody that's listening to this to comprehend. Like, because unless you're in a significant emotional event that gets triggered by, I've been in that place a few times.
Yeah.
And
I imagine so.
And I'm not trying to toot my own horn or anything because this is a totally sucky thing to talk about, but it's very, very much reality when you're in these situations. To be able to dig yourself out of those things and come out shining on the other side. For you to have to make a decision like that can never be an easy decision to make, but all those things that were leading up to it, at that certain point, you've had finally made the decision.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well,
so you turned a corner with that, obviously.
I don't know.
A forceful corner?
It's not like I ever really, like decided like I'm not going to let this beat me. I never really came. I just was like, I was going day by day and I wanted it fixed. And I was like, well, obviously after this many operations, they don't know what they're doing. They don't. And I'm watching these other amputees walk around better than I am. And I saw like probably 4 to 6 doctors like, hey, cut this thing off. And they're like, no. And so where the story gets really gnarly, I got to say, I was in so much pain. I never felt addicted to Vicodin. Like I was taking 20-something a day, and I never felt like it was because I wanted to get high. It was I wanted to walk.
Yeah.
Put it in perspective, like one Vicodin is plenty for anybody that has pain.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I just was miserable. I finally saw this guy, and I had talked this over with a friend of mine, and I'll just leave it at that. But I walked in and I was like, you're the last guy I'm going to see. This is to the doctor. And he's like, what do you mean? I said, well, if you don't amputate my leg, I'm going to go to the hospital in my van and I'm going to shoot my foot off with a shotgun. And my friends are going to rush me into the emergency room and then you're going to have to fix it. Or someone is. And I was like, please, I begged him. I was like, I told him how I was getting all my Vicodin illegally. I told him everything. I was like, I want off this crap. It was a last-ditch effort. That's why, I was able to do it.
But Lance, that's exactly what I was talking about digging yourself out of the hole. He saw the light at the end of the tunnel, and that was the answer.
Well, I didn't know it was a light. I just knew it was a chance. I knew that.
Well, that's all it takes.
Before I went down the other direction, I had to at least try something.
Dude.
And so.
I'm telling you, pat yourself on the back hard for that decision because a lot of people wouldn't do that. They would take the gun and point it somewhere else.
Yeah, I don't know. And what was scary was, and I told the doctor, I was like, and I think I can do it. Like, I really don't think that it's going to kill me. Like, I can handle that pain.
Yeah.
Like, that pain is not going to be any worse than what I'm going through.
But if that's what it's going to take for them to amputate your leg.
And so
what did he say?
He was just like, honestly, I'm absolutely blown away right now. Because he didn't want to do it at first. And then finally, I'll do it. And then I was like, I got a little scared because I was like, oh, man, it's happening.
Reality.
And then I was like, well, if you can, let's wait till I break my leg again because I'm racing pro still. So let me, I know my leg's going to break, so let's just wait. And then he just looked at me and he's just like, that's the second most amazing thing I've heard in a long time.
He's probably
know?
looking at you going like, this motherfucker.
Yeah.
Exactly,
Yeah.
right?
So
Because I'm looking at him right now saying that. I'm like, this
It's pretty
motherfucker.
unbelievable to hear the story, dude.
It is.
so then, so I don't know what year that was, whatever it was. And so there I am racing, and I know I was riding my 02 CR 250 that I still have to this day. And I'm out in front, some Grand Prix race, like an SRA or something. And I used to crush it at those things. And probably 50 feet from where I broke both my legs, I hit something hard. I went off the track a little bit, and I clipped something and just started cartwheeling.
Oh,
And I kind of come to a stop, and I'm looking, and my ankle is up by my ear. And I'm like, shit. And I grab it. I grab my leg, and I throw the thing back down. I didn't want to look at it. It was like going to gross me out if I looked at it. Well, and then I was like, I just broke the wrong leg. I just broke my right femur and my right hip.
dude.
And I'm laying there,
Son of a bitch.
and I'm like, I
Holy
can't believe that just happened. That was my good leg, which my ankle is like fused, and my heel's been replaced. And I'm like, that's my good leg, and I just broke it up. And then I was like a little upset with myself, because I'm sure you went through this too. You always were in the back of your mind like, I wonder how bad that's going to hurt when I break my femur.
Yep.
Like that's got to be the worst. It wasn't.
Yeah,
Like,
mine either.
I bent my knee, and I pushed on it, and I separated everything, and I just sat there, and I just sat. I was like, the paramedics came running up, or the EMTs. We didn't have paramedics. We weren't rich, and the EMTs come up, and they're like, "What's the matter?" I was like, "I broke my femur." "No, you didn't." "Yeah, I did." "No, you didn't." I was like, "Trust me, I broke my femur."
Yep.
And they're like, "All right, we got to take your pants off." And they pulled my pants off. I wasn't wearing any underwear, so everyone got a show. And
That's not the first time, though.
No, definitely not. I woke up naked in an ambulance before. And
I
so
know this
anyway-
one dude that jumped a triple on.
Oh yeah, that part too. So anyway, I got that fixed. I went to a hospital. They took me in an ambulance. Went to the hospital, and I'm begging the doctor. Never met the guy, and I'm begging him. I'm like, please do a cool lightning bolt down the side of my leg. I want the coolest scar ever. And this guy, he was a little uppity, and he's like, "This isn't a joke, son." I'm like, "Are you kidding me? Look at me. This is a joke. Like just do a goddamn lightning bolt on my leg." And he wouldn't do it. So anyway, I got
That would have
boring-
been sick, though.
I know, wouldn't it? So I got a boring scar, and then that I waited a few weeks, probably. I remember I left the hospital from breaking my femur and went straight to the hammers.
What would your wife have said if you had a lightning bolt on the side of your leg, seeing your red?
I would have been even cooler in her eyes. And my wife's rad. Like, wait till we get to that part.
Cool.
So anyway, I went to the other doctor. Or first I went to the hammers and went wheeling with a broken femur, and just what else? Do you
I
do?
guarantee his
Straight out.
mindset was, I can sit down.
Yeah, I had no idea it was going to hurt as bad as it did.
It's four wheels.
But it killed me. Like just driving in to the place, I knew I made a huge mistake.
Yeah.
And I literally went home from the hospital, and it wasn't the last time, and got a change of clothes and went out to the hammers.
I never told
So-
anybody, but in 2017, I raced the whole year with the rod in my hip because I broke it right before the season started. I just didn't want them to see any weakness, so I just
Right.
dealt
Yeah,
with
you
it.
didn't want to tell people.
I was fucking crying in my helmet the whole time, dude. It hurt so bad.
Yeah.
I was walking around the track, and I would just like walk as little as possible, but when I had to walk up to the driver's meeting and stuff,
And everybody limped, so it didn't really matter.
I would just have to shit and grin it though,
Yeah.
man. Oof. I know
Right.
I know what you're doing with that, man.
So I ended up going to the other doctor, and I didn't tell him that I had just broken my femur. And because I'd been, I've had a lot of operations. I know how it works.
And it was the doctor that you had seen before.
Yeah, for the amputation. So I went in, and I wake up, and he is pissed at me. He just went in to break it because I made a deal with him. He got to try to fix it. And if he didn't
Yep.
fix it, then he was going to amputate it. So that was the deal I made with that doctor. So he went out, went in and re-broke my left leg, did bone grafts again out of my hips. And so he was pissed, man, because he's like, "Why didn't you tell me you just broke your femur?" I was like, "Because you wouldn't have operated on me."
Yeah.
It's like, "You're damn right I wouldn't have." And he didn't even know me that well, and he was cussing. And so that surgery didn't work. By now, I had a 2x4 screwed to the bottom of my shoe because my leg was so much shorter from breaking it and stuff. And I rekindled a relationship with my buddy Rod Emery, who is a Porsche restorer, and you
showed me some pictures of the stuff that he does on Instagram.
Yeah, he's
super
amazing.
cool, man.
The guy is such an inspiration to me, and he taught me so much. He's a big reason why I'm in the position I'm in now.
Yeah,
a huge reason.
Dude, these Porsches, like, I'm glad that
Yeah.
the dude is awesome, dude, but these cars are badass.
Yeah. He's even a better dude. Like, his cars are cool, but he is, I mean, just,
He's cooler.
yeah. So anyway, he's like, basically, when you get your leg cut off, I'll put you in the Rolex series, but
Wow.
you have to be off the Vicodin, and so I went in, got
That's
my
great.
leg removed.
That's a
And-
serious conversation, but it gives you a little bit of reality check right there. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
like, wow,
We
okay.
were talking about this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Serious.
And so what?
But that's exactly what I was talking about, like lifting people up. He's giving an opportunity to make
Right.
yourself better.
And that's where I learned a bunch about who I am today, is from him. So I leave the hospital, getting my leg amputated, and went home, got my Carhartt coveralls, and went right out to the Hammers.
So that doctor said that you could amputate your leg. He gave you the okay
Yeah,
to do it?
he tried to fix it and it didn't work. So he went in and amputated it.
Oh, okay.
and,
all in one surgery.
No, it was two.
Okay.
So I go out to the Hammers. I'm got a rock buggy now, and I'm using a crutch on the clutch, and I've got my.
So this
leg-
is freshly leg amputation.
It was bleeding,
Wow.
and
Stitches.
so
and
that kind of elevated me. Like, have you ever heard of Pirate 4x4
all.
website?
Maybe. I don't know.
It was huge back.
Oh,
in the
yeah,
day.
yeah, I have. Yeah.
And so that was pretty big because I posted my pictures and getting my leg cut off, and I'm out rock crawling like 2 days after getting my leg
Are those
cut
pictures
off.
still up there, I wonder?
Oh,
Or is
yeah.
that?
I'm sure
they've
they
gotta
are.
I want to
be.
check
It's
that
the
out.
internet.
Yeah. So I'm MI Evil on Pirate.
Oh,
And
we'll check it
Evil-
out after
Evil
the show or
spelled
something.
like Evil Knievel. But anyway, so fast forward, Rod set up a whole Rolex series program for me to race in, and he's the other driver, and we're racing a brand spanking new Porsche GT3 Cup car. And I get a sponsorship
Those
from a
things are
prosthetic
so
company.
cool, man.
Yeah, and I'm like, sweet, I'm gonna get some money, And Rod's like, hey, look, I'm already paying you to race. Why don't you, instead of getting money for yourself, why don't we do this charitable thing? And why don't you get a bunch of product and we can give kids prosthetics that
Dude,
can't afford them?
sweet.
And I'm like, what? What are you talking about? How's that going to put money in my pocket, Because as racers, we've talked about it. We're pretty selfish.
Yeah.
It's all about us as the racer and whatnot. Well, Rod taught me a thing or two, and pretty soon we're helping kids across the country with getting prosthetics.
Dude, that's so awesome.
And they were always kids that couldn't afford them. So we were literally putting kids back on their feet, and
That's awesome.
it was amazing. And
Quite literally.
and
Yeah.
it hit me. It hit me in such a way that that's pretty much like that's what makes me feel good now. Like
Yeah.
you kind of probably get the idea. I'm not super proud of myself. Like I feel like I could have done a lot more, and I get really depressed and stuff. And that is what helping other people out is what keeps me going.
Amen.
It's
Dude, I agree with that 100%.
and that might even be selfish. I don't know, but I know that at least I'm helping somebody.
No, that's not
Like-
selfish at all, dude. That's definitely not selfish.
It just it makes me feel better, and so I do it. I do what
Yeah.
I can, and
that hits home with me like you wouldn't even believe. Like, so these leg braces that I wear, it's not the same prosthetic. Like, you obviously have a missing limb, but these are $5,000 to $10,000
oh yeah,
for these guys. So they're very, very unaffordable for people, and they suck. Like, they're hard to
Mhm.
walk in. You got to every prosthetic is sucky. For the person that doesn't want to be walking in it.
right.
But it's always been a hard thing to do, and I've been lucky because I was sponsored by the prosthetic company too. I get free leg braces, and I don't have to pay for them. But
Are those Oster?
these are actually called carbon composite
Oh yeah, okay.
or custom composite, excuse me. But there's a huge process that you have to go through, and a lot of governmental insurances, Medicare, Medicaid, and all those things don't cover it anymore. They quit covering prosthetics.
Because they're not necessary.
Well, whatever their excuse is
Right.
bullshit. But I started 3 years ago, but it's starting to come to fruition where we're starting the prototype phase right now of the final leg braces that we're going to be giving away to a lot of people. So
The aluminum ones?
they're actually going to be some sort of military composites.
Okay.
So they're going to be
Cool.
all green. They're bitching. But the fact is that's all that I wanted to do was help people too. So that really hits home with me. And the cool part about it is that for every one pair that the insurance company pays for, that the provider's office gets an insurance company to pay for, they get a free pair to give to another person that comes in. So it'll be pretty cool, and I really want to help people. So, man, kudos to you for doing all that stuff, and kudos to Rod for giving you the wherewithal to be able to do that, or the idea to do it.
He's an incredible human being. Like,
that's great.
I want to meet this dude one of these days.
Man, I hope you do. And so what he did actually led me to meet my wife.
Really?
Because, all right, so, from racing X Games and whatnot, and I don't know, do you want me to go in there that first, or we have time or whatever?
Yeah, let's talk about how you met your wife.
Okay. So because I won X Games, I was in the Guinness Book of World Records for the first amputee to win a gold medal in X Games. I'd fly around, I'd talk to people.
Yeah, motivational speaking stuff.
Well, in the hospitals, like kids, stuff like that. And I'd call them on the phone or whatever. I was in New Jersey or New York or something, and I was working, and this guy wanted me to race on his 24-hour.
All right, can we hold on?
team.
Can we back up real quick? Did we just bypass right over Guinness Book of World Records? We just blew right by that. So it's no big deal.
I still think that's bitching, but I still think the part where he's helping people is more important in my eyes. But
but incredible, right? I mean, all of this. It's
we're going to come back to the X Games, so
right.
we can definitely talk about it.
All right. Well, so anyway, so I ended up flying into New Jersey after racing the 24 hours at Glen Helen, with my prosthetic. So I'm still racing dirt bikes, obviously, and my friend Harold Glisson, he's missing his arm, and you've probably met him, and so he picks me up at the airport. And he's like, hey, there's this kid that, he just got his leg amputated last night. And, why don't you want to stop by the hospital? We got, some time. Let's stop by the hospital and talk to him. I'm like, yeah, for sure.
Sweet. Yeah, that's cool.
So we go by the hospital, and this kid is super cool. Huge smile on his face. And he just got his leg amputated in a similar situation where he was a year of them trying to fix it. And the doctors pretty much shit the bed on that one. And, I'm talking to him, and the kid's got he's got a Great Dane, and I had a Great Dane, and, and he just, I really liked him.
It's one of those things where you're supposed to meet.
Yeah. And his mom was hot. And, I mean, it's a little awkward now because I'm trying to encourage him. I'm like, dude, you're going to be fine. You're going to wakeboard. You're going to snowboard. You're going to nail hot chicks, pumping him up. And now I'm married to his mom. so what happened there?
That's one of those fate things, though. You don't
is.
get the opportunity to do that unless that commonality is there.
Here's what happened. They lived in New Jersey, and so Nick loses his leg, and his younger brother, who I didn't even meet because he was on the road with Ronnie Stewart, came out west to practice, and 3 weeks to the day.
Dirt bikes.
Yeah. So I kept talking to Nick. I was sending him pictures, of some of the Porsches that I'm involved with and stuff. And so I stayed in touch with him, and I wanted to make sure he was doing good. And 3 weeks go by, and he texts me. He's like, hey, are you home yet? And I was like, no, I'm on the road. And he said, well, me and my mom just got to California. I was like, oh, what are you guys doing there? He said, well, my little brother just got hurt. And I'm like, what do you mean he just got hurt? And he's like, well, he broke his back. I'm like, oh, well, I've broken my back. I mean, it doesn't always end up being paralyzed, and I'm like, oh, okay. I was like, well, I'll be home tomorrow. Anyway,
were they at a race or something?
They were at Milestone just practicing.
Oh, okay.
And he made a mistake, and he was wearing a Liat brace, and I'm not a huge supporter of those, and I don't know who's to say if it broke his back or not, but I think it did. Not really sure if I can say that, but
it doesn't matter. Yeah, I'm all about safety, so whatever we can do to make it better for people in the future.
I think that they've come a long way since then to make those things better. But anyhow, he's paralyzed 3 weeks to the day after Nick lost his leg, and Adam's paralyzed, and
fuck, what was Mom thinking at this point?
So check this out. She's handling it pretty damn good, and 5 days go by, and I'm seeing them a lot, and I'm
Back in California.
yeah, they're at they were, I think, at Loma Linda. I forgot which hospital, maybe Arrowhead, and so I'm talking to them and everything, and I'm like, Kurt Caselli had just passed away.
Yep.
And they had the first memorial ride for him, and I was like, hey, Crystal, that's my wife's name. I was like, hey, Crystal, do you mind if I take Nick out to the desert, and go riding? And I was sketched out to ask that question. This is a week after her kid just got paralyzed, and only 4 weeks after Nick got his leg removed. And she's like, yeah, get him out of here. He's going crazy. I'm like, let me get this straight. You're going to let me take your kid who just lost his leg out on a dirt bike? And she's like, yep. And so we taped him up, got him on a bike, and he rode the desert loop with me.
Wow.
And we did the Caselli Memorial.
Can you imagine, Lance, how good that kid felt after that day?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was stoked. And
but his mom's pretty cool too.
She's incredible.
To have the foresight to be able to say, yeah, he needs out of here and he needs that therapy.
Yeah.
Well, that's a mom's intuition right there.
Yeah. And so then, they started coming over because Adam was in the hospital for a long time, but they'd come over on Saturdays and we'd watch Supercross, and I'd scream at the TV until I couldn't talk anymore. And
that's
And
crazy.
that's how our relationship started.
That's great.
And
That's
she's
so
just
great.
as crazy as I am. Like, we do some gnarly shit in our van, like getting stuck. The first trip we ever did, we had to dig for 14 hours.
When did you decide that she was the one?
After this trip where we dug for 14 hours and she didn't bitch. She
You're
enjoyed
like,
it.
Let's keep her.
Yep. Yep.
Oh, man.
So
That's great.
Well, so fast forward a little bit then. So obviously you're getting along with the kids, and it sounds like he was paralyzed, but he's doing better now.
He's doing really good. He's probably handling it way better than I could even imagine handling it.
Yeah.
And I've talked to him about it, and he's okay with it. He says he can still live a good life.
Yeah.
And because his whole life wasn't about riding a motorcycle.
Where did he break his back at? What level?
I don't know.
Middle of the back?
Right where the brace ends. Like literally right where it ends.
Oh, at a little bit upper there?
Yeah.
So
I think he's like here.
T11, T7 or something.
7, I think is closer.
Dang, that's crazy. Oh, I'm glad that he's doing good now. And I'm glad that you're around too. That sounds like you entered their life at a really good time.
We have a lot of fun. I mean, we're the effed up family. The
walking wounded.
Yeah, all of us are messed up, except for Crystal. And she does the most dangerous thing in the world. She rides horses.
That is pretty gnarly, dude.
Yeah.
I've been knocked off a few horses.
Yeah, they're dangerous.
Well,
They're dangerous.
So you knew that, and then to fast forward a little bit, you obviously got married, and
so on our
And who
wedding,
married you?
Mike Young.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
So
Mike
Mike Young, for our listeners, is
Yep.
in a wheelchair for motocross. So in our wedding party, we had Mike Young in a wheelchair.
Mike was a guest on the show earlier. Yeah.
My son Adam in a wheelchair. My other son Nick is missing his leg. I'm missing a leg. One of our dogs was missing an eye. It was.
This wedding must have been
Crystal,
awesome.
yeah, Crystal was the only one with 2 functioning legs, huh?
Yeah. She throws that in our face every once in a while. She's pretty stuck up about that.
Hell yeah,
But
that's
I think,
awesome.
I think the real story is after the wedding.
So the morning of our wedding, there was flash flood warnings and a huge storm rolled into Lake Powell, and we were getting married on a cliff, 800-foot cliff called Ostrom Point, and we're driving out there. Mike Young's in a side-by-side, and me and Mike didn't get along when we were younger. Like, I didn't like him. He even admits it. He wasn't the person he is today.
Yeah.
I probably wasn't the person I am today. But anyway, so he met Adam when Adam got paralyzed. He was in the hospital talking to Adam,
Really?
like I was in the hospital talking to Nick.
Wow.
And so I came into the hospital, and Mike's there, and he's like, what are you doing here? And I'm like, what are you doing here? And so
both doing good deeds.
yeah. And so anyway, he was marrying us. He was in a side-by-side, and the hail was so bad, it blew out the window in my Jeep. We're in
Whoa.
the van. The kids were in the Jeep. And Mike Young was in a Razor or a Kawasaki, like a Terex or
Yeah.
whatever. And so it got so bad, I had to pull him into the van. Like he had to leave the thing in the desert because
Wow.
the weather was so bad, 80-mile-an-hour winds.
That's nuts.
And so I pulled up next to him in the van, side doors open. I reached down and I put my arms underneath his underarms.
Yeah.
and I pull him into the van on top of me, and there I'm laying on my back, and he's laying on his back on top of me, and I whisper right in his ear. I was like, I bet you never thought it was going to be like this, did you?
Oh, that's another clip I got to play, too.
Oh, man.
We're going to cut that out.
He starts cracking up, and he's freezing. He's shivering. He's soaking wet. So we get there, and everyone's wondering, like, nobody was off-roaders really, and no one had been to this cliff, this Austrian Point thing. It overlooks Lake Powell. It's awesome. And he's like, we're sitting there in the vehicles for like 45 minutes, waiting for the weather to clear, and everyone is wondering, what in the hell are we doing here? And then the weather, it's Utah. It blew away,
Yep.
sun came out, and just absolutely
Beautiful.
gorgeous wedding day. So after all that stuff about getting married, we're leaving, and the boys are in the Jeep, and all of a sudden my phone rings, and Nick is like, I'm axle deep in mud. And I'm like, sweet. So Nick's driving the Jeep. I'm driving my van with my parents.
Yep.
And Crystal's driving her truck with her parents, and her parents are in their 80s, and a couple dogs and whatnot. So I'm talking to David Bailey. I just got married. David Bailey's my idol. I wanted to talk to him.
You're all pumped up.
God, I was pumped, and I'm sliding all sideways. I'm having the time of my life, and Nick keeps calling me, and finally I'm like, what? And he's like, Mom just rolled the truck. And I was like,
Oh, shit.
uh-oh. So I flip a bitch. I go back, and I was like, don't go up there. Just wait till I get there. I was worried that something was bad. I didn't want them seeing it or
Right,
whatever.
yeah, just in case.
So I got up there, and they were all fine. I lifted everyone out. Actually, me and Nick, and we all lifted everybody out of the truck, and my dirt bike was in the back. And so we're in some serious mud. I mean, it is so bad, and I've got everyone in my van now, like both sets of parents and all the dogs. And oh, real quick, since I knew there was going to be a flood, I measured the dry riverbed. Like, I stopped and I ran out real quick, and I went up to the edge of the wash, and I measured it against my waist. I'm like, all right, so if I can see this edge, I know that I'm good. I can cross it if there's water in it.
Yeah, just in case.
So I know how deep it is.
Yeah.
I learned something about water that day. So we're all in the van. We get to the river crossing. Well, there's probably 10 cars there because they were all out taking pictures and whatnot. Whatever, it's Utah. People are out doing stuff. I just, like a full-on dick, I just pass everyone in line. Like, they're waiting for this flash flood to leave, and they've been waiting there for hours. I just moto by everybody.
Yeah.
And I cut right to the front of the line. All these people are waving at me. They're like, stop. And I'm like, trust me, bro, I got this, Don't you know I am? And so, but I saw the other side with my lights. I'm like, oh, I got this,
Because you measured it.
Yeah. Well, apparently, water, when it rushes, it has like a deep spot. And so I didn't even come to a stop, and I just dropped in. Well, since I cut everybody off, I had to come in at an angle. And I dropped the left front wheel in, and I've got all my parents now on the van, and the van goes into a roll.
Oh, shit.
And my in-laws had just been in a car roll, a truck roll. So now I've got water running over the base of the windshield in my van. And my van's pretty badass. It's tall. Mm-hmm. And we're teetering. We're almost ready to roll into this raging river. And my son Nick comes up to me, and I'm like, Nick, I'm like trying to calm everybody down. They're screaming. I'm like, Nick, hook the winch up to me and just pull us down and hurry. So he does. And we get back down. So anyway,
Dude, that's crazy.
we sat in the van for like 3 hours, all just getting pretty drunk because our emergency.
So what would your wife
prep-
Erin do if we were in that situation?
Oh, she wouldn't have let that situation happen.
Oh, man.
Come on, you know that.
So my emergency preparation for the storm that me and Crystal were the only two that knew were coming, the storm was coming. I said, just pack a whole bunch of extra beer. So we all just sat there and drank in the van and got drunk.
Oh, my gosh, man.
Great.
Ended up crossing the river, a few hours later. And then me and Crystal had to go back to the truck that night. Now it's like 3 or 4 in the morning. This is our wedding night. But my dirt bike was in the back of that truck.
Shit.
And I wasn't leaving my dirt bike in the back of that truck.
Exactly.
My dirt bike
Well,
was,
because somebody else is going to go get it.
yeah, I was worried. I mean,
Yeah.
plus I have special suspension on
Yeah.
it that I'm not allowed to have.
Yep.
Different story. Anyway, so we spent the night next to a rolled truck with a dirt bike in it, and that was our wedding night.
That's insane. So now you understand the whole skipping over Guinness Book of World Records.
Yeah.
That's amazing, dude.
I asked for it. I knew that this story was going to be good, so.
Woo-wee.
And my wife, she
sounds like a badass.
She is, and she trusts me. And I always kid. I'm like, you're supposed to be the voice of reason.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and you suck at that job because I'm not going to be that voice. And someone here in this relationship has got to save us. And
is it one of those things where like you're talking to your buddies and you're like, yeah, my wife's coming. Oh, good. We'd rather hang out with her.
Everyone loves her. Yeah. So we always go to Scott Meyer's house for parties and stuff, and he has this road jump on his property, and I usually am the one that starts it, like because it's kind of like going back to the Naked Nationals thing, So I'm always trying to call Scott out, and so I was the first one to jump it, and we raced Baja together and stuff, and so
You do it at car?
No, Scott's he's a bike guy.
Okay.
Now he's a big bike guy, but like a adventure bike guy.
Oh, cool.
So anyway, that's probably going to be the next one we do it. We'll be on his adventure bike.
Cool.
And that'll be huge because that's a big old pig. But it's a big road jump. Well, Scott's like, dude, I'm going to do that road jump with your wife on the bike. I'm like, no, you're not. And Crystal, she's like, okay. And I'm like, no, not okay. You guys are going to, I said, you know what's going to happen? She's like, we'll be fine. I was like, Scott will be fine. Scott's going to land on you.
Yeah.
So Scott's going to be fine. You're going to be crushed. And so I don't know. We like last time we did it at night. So that's really gnarly doing a road jump at night with a little headlight.
Big time.
I just knew that I had to keep it in second and pin it, and I was going to make it. And then Spud ate shit.
Oh, man.
And we had Spud was bleeding. This other guy, he was new to the group. His name was Ben Binkley, and he did it and crashed and tore up his whole arm. And we're like, come on, you pussy, you got to do it. You're not even broken. And so then he misses it again and fucks up the other side of his arm. And he goes home from a party, and he looks like he just
just got shredded.
Yeah, he got hammered.
Man, that's crazy. Oh, I want to kind of get back to the X Games thing that you were talking about, too. The Guinness Book of World Records, I don't know if I knew that, actually, but that's pretty amazing. I think I might have heard about it. Let me, I guess, lead the story up to this, though. So we all got invited as, I don't know what you want to call it, non-able-bodied people to be participate in the X Games in, what was it, 2008? Was it 2007 and 2008?
8, 9,
yeah, so
10, and 13.
I got to do it one of the years with you guys, so I got to see it firsthand. And my qualifications to get there was to go to the Extremity Games, so that's where I actually knew about you and heard about you. And the Extremity Games.
I remember that, and you showed up and busted out a double that we hadn't done yet, and I'm like, who the hell is this? That guy's not hurt.
I was definitely hurt, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But that was like my qualification to get in. I had talked to the guys that ran that adaptive association or whatever it was called, and they're like, yeah, if you can go up there and do well and show everybody, your handicap or whatever. And I was like, okay, cool, I'll see what I can do. And I remember thinking to myself, though, like, I don't have a limb missing, so it's going to look weird when I have my boots on because I'll look like semi-okay, like because I can pull myself up, so it kind of might look like my legs work better than they do. But so that was my qualification to get up there. I ended up winning the gold medal at the Extremity Games, racing with you and Mike Schultz and a bunch of other guys. That was so fun, and to me that was like an eye-opening experience because we could still all race together.
Yeah.
And I hadn't done that in 10 years.
Right.
And I was like, wow, I can race a dirt bike against other people still.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is amazing. Like,
that's cool.
Holy smokes.
Yeah,
and
I love that Extremity Games.
It was so cool. And it was at a place called Baja Acres up in Flint, Michigan. And it was one of the best tracks I've ever ridden. The Lake Whitney, I think, is still my number one. But that track was so cool, man.
Yeah.
Just because loamy dirt, you could get super and on the 250
gigantic jumps.
Yeah, and you guys were doing that downhill step up though. That thing was like fourth gear on a 450.
Yeah, it was gnarly.
I couldn't get over that. My bike wouldn't go fast enough.
Yeah, I didn't like it.
It was huge though. I saw you guys do that, and I'm like, nope, not gonna happen. But yeah, so that was my first introduction to adaptive athletes, I think is what they called it, right? And so I was like in awe, like I was in amazement, and I was like, holy cow, this is so cool. Like there's actually guys that are doing this in real life, not just on the internet, like where I'm seeing it. So like it was just cool, and to see how fast you guys were going and the things that you guys were doing was just like, I couldn't wait to get to the X Games. I was like, get us there as quick as possible. I love this stuff. And So I was able to secure my spot for the X Games, and then I saw you guys at the X Games, and man, it was just such a cool feeling. Like we talked about it eating tacos and stuff. It was they treat you like rock stars, man.
Best I've ever been treated. And I raced Supercross and Outdoor Nationals.
Yep.
And we got to X Games, and I was like, man, I'm actually getting treated with the amount of respect that you kind of think you should when you're the show, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And it's not that we deserve respect. It's just cool.
Right.
They treat you good. Anybody that's in any of those positions, they don't know who we are. They just treat us good.
Right.
So it was really, really cool to feel that. And the, feeling that thing when you're on the stadium floor and stuff, it just brought me back to such a good place in life. You know what I mean? Like going through all the stuff like what you're talking about, all those bad days and all those times when you're thinking about shooting your own leg off to get in the emergency room. And then you get out on the stadium floor and you're just like smiling from ear to ear.
It kind of justifies what we went through.
Dude. Well, nothing justifies it. But yeah, I mean, it gives you a definite happiness, peace of mind for sure.
And so, I don't know about you, but after the first one, I had to clear my voicemail probably 3 or 4 times a day.
Yeah.
From people that I hadn't heard from in so long. And it was so cool. Like people are like, I don't know, they're like, oh my God, now they're talking to me.
Yep.
Now that I was on TV. We were live on TV, by the way.
Yeah.
Which was awesome. And I loved it. I was like, man, that is so cool. Like these people made the effort to call me, after seeing that. And it made me feel really, really special.
Totally.
But it was such a significant thing. Well, first of all, you were in the Guinness Book of World Records, but it was such a significant accomplishment. I want to go back to my little part of the story to qualify it with you, but just looking at it from an outsider's perspective, such a significant accomplishment to do something on a professional stage, almost all of the jumps that all the professional riders were doing. Even Kevin Windham showed you how to jump this jump, the finish line jump, and achieve a gold medal at the X Games. I mean, that is like phenomenal.
Yeah.
And to be able to do it after going through all that adversity is just amazing, man. So I can only imagine how much positive messages you got.
It was really, really cool.
And it felt good, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So to go through that story, I only got to go to the X Games 1 year. But I wanted to go the following year, but I wasn't able to. So that race, I ended up, I started 9th because I was sleeping at the start. And so you guys all pulled away, but I caught up to 3rd. Within the first couple laps, so I was doing decent, and I wasn't able to do the rhythm sections quite as good as what you guys were. And then the second place guy, Mike Schultz, he had an issue. You were already checked out, so he had an issue, and I moved up into 2nd. And I was like, okay, cool, like I'm gonna get on the podium, and I wasn't same thinking as you. I wasn't satisfied. I wanted to beat you, and I wanted that gold medal, but it wasn't going to happen. It wasn't my year. And I think second to last lap or last lap, I ended up falling down. And I ended up breaking my wrist. Made Sports Center though. Which
I know.
was
I
cool.
saw that.
So I broke my wrist, but I got up and I still passed 2 dudes, like trying to ride with one arm because I was like, I'm not fucking leaving. They treated us so good. I'm gonna finish this motherfucker. Right. And so I finished it with the broken arm. I passed a couple dudes, and then I went and stood next to the podium with you guys because I was so jealous or in awe because I wasn't up there. I was like, damn it, if I can't stand up there with those guys, I'm going to stand next to them and listen to every single word that they say before I go to the hospital.
Man,
and so I listened to you guys, and I stood up there, and I even clapped my hands and was so stoked for you guys. I was yelling and screaming right there at the bottom of the podium, and I was so pumped. And I went to Taco Bell, went to the hospital, and got my arm fixed.
Wow.
So it was such a cool event, and that's why I didn't give up, because they treated us so well, and I was so proud of you guys. I thought it was so fucking cool, man. Yeah. No matter whether I was on the podium or not, we all gave it our all.
I remember after that I was looking you up because I was like, who is this guy? Like you were fast, and I was like, how is this guy fast? And I don't know who he is. And
Arizona.
Yeah, but also you were younger than me, so I was out of motocross by the time you.
Yeah, we're getting in.
Yeah, you got hurt in 97?
98.
98.
Yeah.
And so at 98, I was just getting back into racing. I barely raced in 98. And then actually I worked as a traveling stuntman.
Yeah, I remember that. That's cool.
I was dumb.
That's cool, though.
I couldn't race, so I was like, I was whatever. So doing jumps.
I just think it's so bitching to see like the amount of what do you call it? Overcoming. I don't know. Maybe that's a weird word that people can do. Like, I mean, I give myself props because I'm proud of myself, but to still be that amped up to see these guys, like I was in complete jealousy and awe that these guys were standing on the podium. And whether I had raced that or not, everybody around felt that same way. Every single person in the stadium, every single person on TV. I remember getting messages after that race going, I'm sorry you fell down, but we couldn't stop watching this. This is fucking amazing.
And the riders, the pro riders gave us so much respect and props, and they were so into it. And I was like, man, that is Josh Hansen is like, talking to me and congratulating, and
it's cool.
And I'm like, these guys are like they're like what I wanted to be.
Yep.
And they're coming up and shaking my hand, and I was like, man.
So let's look at it from a different perspective. Like, let's look at it from an outside perspective. I felt that way, and I was on the track with you. So can you imagine, like, you're not a regular dude. You're a fucking badass. Like, you did some amazing things. Is Josh Hansen in the Guinness Book of World Records?
I mean,
no.
There's people that are in the Guinness Book of World Records for doing some really dumb stuff.
Yeah. Rob Dyrdek jumping a car backwards in reverse. But the point is, you wouldn't have done that if you didn't have the mindset that you do. Your mindset that we've been talking about this whole time, whether you're hard on yourself, whether you want more, all that stuff leads to the person that you are and the person that you made yourself to stand on the top of that podium, dude. It's bitching.
Thanks. I appreciate that.
It's super cool.
I agree.
And I think, Crystal, she saw a lot of that stuff. You didn't have to tell her. She saw how you deal with the kids. She saw how you deal with life.
Her kids are pretty awesome. We're friends.
Yeah. Your homies.
Yeah.
One-legged homies.
I'm not really like a dad. I'm like,
you're like their brother?
Yeah, I'm like, hey, let's go take my son Adam just got a WRX. I'm like, dude.
Oh, really?
Let's go learn how to really drive this thing.
Are those the ones that are street legal or no?
The WRX, that's a street legal car.
It's that Subaru.
Oh, I thought
yeah.
I'm not the YXZ. The Yamaha dirt bike.
Good plug.
The WR. Yamaha doesn't do shit for the show, so I'm not worried about them.
They don't do shit for Doug Henry either. Yeah. Shout out to Doug.
Yeah, that guy's a badass. Yeah. So I told you the story. The reason that I'm number 19 is because he was my idol. Yeah. So, yeah, I love that.
I got to hang out with him doing the race across America.
Yeah, I think that's cool, man. Maybe we should, if you want to join us across the country, maybe we should ask Doug and see if he wants to go on a stint too.
Yeah.
Be cool.
I guarantee you he will.
I'd like to ask David too. I don't know if he wants to drive a side by side, but I'd like to get some guys to go on a side by side or anything.
I'll talk him into it.
Yeah, see what he says.
Or
maybe he can just go on a stint, come to Utah. I know Utah's going to be a big place for everybody. Junctions and goes out, so might be able to just get people to go for a day or something. Well, so you did a lot of amazing things on the dirt bike, and clearly we're talking about X Games because we both did it. But now you do some pretty rad stuff, man. And this is stuff that actually Lance was talking about with me before we even knew you did the overlanding stuff. But you do overlanding in a van now, huh?
Yeah, so I had to find something. And what we got to feed that need. And I was sick of getting hurt. And four-wheel drives, I've been doing it for a long time. I've been part of King of the Hammers since the beginning, even since before it was King of the Hammers. I used to go out with Dave Cole, who started it.
Using those like big rock crawler trucks?
Yep. I made some of the trails that are out there that they're using.
Oh, that's kind of close.
Yeah, well, I named them. I was the first one to break the trails and whatnot.
Sweet, man.
And they use them in the race every year and stuff. So I've been in that for a long time. And I raced it, I don't know how many times, probably 6 times.
What kind of vehicle did you race? Was it different ones?
I raced for Trent Fab. I raced this last time. I raced a car that was owned by Gene Mooneyham, and he's actually he's in Arizona.
What classes were those?
4400.
Yeah.
So that's the highest class.
The big dogs. You see that Cody Miller rode a side by side in the 4400 class this year,
and he did good too. But
that still to me is a pretty amazing feat. But yeah.
So I'm really good at four-wheeling. In fact, four-wheeling is about, I feel as comfortable and confident in a Jeep or in a van or whatever side by side as I do on a motorcycle.
Is it because you can tell what the vehicle is doing? You can still feel it with your prosthetic?
I don't know. It just comes to me. Like
Right.
I can handle it.
So I knew like when I got into side-by-side stuff, I tried wearing earplugs once. And
oh yeah, I can't do it. You gotta
I couldn't
hear
do it, yeah, because when I did it, all of my senses were off.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that my ears and my head, like everything covered for what my legs couldn't do.
Yep.
That's what you feel too?
Yeah, I don't wear
Wow.
earplugs. And here's something that really trips me out. This guy bought something from me, a motorhome from me, and he's an instructor for car racing. And I said, I don't know what it is, but I mean, every time I get in a race car, I'm the fastest guy. Even if I had never driven the car, it takes me a few laps, but I end up being the fastest guy.
Mm-hmm.
And it could be someone else's Miata that they race every day or every weekend, and I'm going to be faster. I said, I don't understand it because I don't have a ton of experience. I do have a ton of experience racing, and I know how to push the edge really good. And this guy was like, out of the blue, he's like, do you get car sick when other people are driving? I was like, oh, yeah. Like, I have to pay attention. Otherwise, I get sick. And he's like, I have this theory. He said, you have a weaker equilibrium. So you have a feel that's more sensitive, not a weaker, a more sensitive equilibrium.
Dude, then my mom's going to wax you. She'll smoke you then. Her equilibrium's all jacked up.
So he said you feel stuff that a lot of people might not feel.
That's crazy.
Isn't it? And if you think about it, it makes sense.
It does make sense.
Like you feel the car going away from you before other people might feel it. And it's just a theory, I don't know, but it made sense to me. And I've never, that's the only thing I've ever been able to add up to why I'm a good race car driver. But on dirt, it's a little bit different because it's always sliding and we're just aggressive as hell. So.
Yeah, exactly. But we were talking about this a little bit earlier, though, too, in your experience at KOH. Like, you have to be very conscious of what your legs are doing because they could or couldn't be in the right position. Right. And when you're crawling over rocks and doing things like that, you have to be very precise, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so whether it's the equilibrium or not, you're thinking ahead.
Right. And so the overlanding thing, I can't afford to race. Like, I could, but I would have no other life, and that's not what I want.
And you're talking about racing the Porsches and the...
Porsches was way out of my league. It was good while it lasted, but I couldn't afford to do that at all.
A lot of dudes are doing the Miata stuff nowadays, too.
That's even pretty expensive.
Yeah.
And what's crazy is, just a little side note, I think the spec Miata guys are better as a whole than the Rolex series guys.
Yeah, the one of the drivers in that class is named Robert Stout. He just won the Lucas Production 1000 UTV championship. Mm-hmm. So I've been semi-following the Miata series just because of him.
Well, I can't afford to race and have any kind of other life. Plus, racing is super selfish. You know, every dime you have goes into it. Every spare moment goes into it. Prepping, all that stuff.
So the overlanding stuff came in.
So here's the overlanding stuff, and I take chances with like crossing rivers, and like so this trip that me and my wife, our very first overlanding trip, it just got drug out, but we ended up having to dig for 14 hours to get through this thing. And
Jesus, 14 hours?
Yeah, by ourselves. We did have a dirt bike in the trailer because I was like, I tow a military trailer sometimes just so we have a way out.
Yeah.
And we're getting ready to cross this river that we were told by so many people not to cross it, like it was going to take us away. And we got there, and I was expecting something else, and I was expecting people to be there, and there was no one there. And I'm like, man, what am I going to do? And I was like, I got to fix my ARB locker. So I was like, I'm going to figure out the smartest way to do something stupid.
Yeah.
And
at least try to be calculated.
Yeah. And so I'm working on the van, and I'm fixing, this air leak that I had, and I'm like, I got it. I have a trailer. So I unloaded a bunch of stuff, and I just backed in. I backed the trailer into the river, and because it was so cold you couldn't walk across it, and it was the mud was so bad. Crystal tried to walk across it, and it took her boots off.
Holy smokes!
I thought first we weren't going to get through the mud. So anyway, so I backed the trailer in. Trailer didn't sink, so I backed the van in more. The van didn't sink, so then I started backing the trailer across the river, and I made it all the way across. And so then I came back and I unhitched the trailer, and I said, well, we can't make it up the other side because the flood had gone through and the embankment was so steep. So I said, I want you to drop me off at the other side, and I'm going to dig out basically a boat ramp. And she's like, no, I'm going to dig. I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, if I lose your van in this river, because you couldn't let the van sit there, it would sink in the mud. So I was like, she's like, if I lose your van in the river, you're never going to talk to me again.
Dude, this is some Bear Grylls shit with a van.
Yeah. And so I'm like, yeah, you got a good point. I probably wouldn't talk to you. So anyway, so I dropped her off, and I literally sat there for 3 hours on the other side of the river drinking beers and sitting in a chair, and she's just digging. And every once in a while I'd call out, I was like, you all right?
Badass.
So she
I don't know
dug
many
out.
chicks that are that hardcore. That's
Right.
awesome.
She's a horse
Right.
chick. Horse chicks, they're kind of crazy, and they aren't afraid of work at all. And I like my women.
Were the
a
kids
little
with you or
rich.
no?
No, we were by ourselves.
I was going to
And
say,
so-
what'd the kids say when they heard the story
Oh,
of
they
mom
loved
doing
it.
that?
They
That's
loved it.
awesome.
So we dug our way across, and that was the first time digging. And then the road was washed away, and so we're in this position, and this is the second time where we dug for 8 hours straight, both
Holy
of us,
smokes.
and the road was gone. But I made something work. I was like, I think we can make that, and I'll show you a picture of it. It was gnarly, and I said, I think we can make that if we dig it. So we finished digging, and the van was going to roll into this big ditch if I didn't do it right. And so after we're done, I was like, you know what? Let's eat lunch. Let's be smart about this. I don't want to be rushing. Let's think this out. And she goes, aren't you totally terrified? And I'm like, I used to make decisions that put me in the hospital.
Yeah.
I might lose my van, which I don't want to lose my van, but
And I don't want to be stuck out here.
I'm probably not going to be in the hospital.
Yeah.
I'll duck.
So it's
But-
a little less of a
yeah. So
You like his rationale?
I love it.
so we made it. We had to unhitch the trailer. The trailer was going to get ready to roll off the edge, and unhitched it and drug it up by a strap, and it was gnarly. Like,
Dude, that's so crazy.
yeah.
And so this overlanding thing, because I don't know that much about it, like, is it about kind of making your own path, or is it just about going to these excursions?
There's no more making your own path,
Right.
I mean, because of tread lightly and stuff, which I agree with. There's two types of overlanders, I guess three. There's like the type that pose, and they pretty much just take pictures of their rooftop tents off
Yeah.
the side of the roads and whatnot, and their trucks don't have a scratch or a ding in them. Then there's the
10
guys
feet
like
from the pavement.
Yeah, then there's the guys like me that my van has got nothing but scratches in it from going through, skinny trails and whatnot, and I push it pretty far to the limit. Then there's the gnarly guys that are driving down through South America, and they're crossing rivers, and
Yeah.
and they're by themselves, and they could get kidnapped and butt raped, and
Yeah. Oh,
That-
dude, I'm not about that
that's a
life.
kind of overlanding I'm not really ready for. But so what I look at it now is, if you think about it, we used to practice so that we could see how we performed
Yeah.
in race day. Well, I'm practicing what I can do in my van, what kind of rivers I can cross, what kind of mud I can get through,
Every
what
time.
kind of rocks, so that when we do go other places, and we do plan on going to a lot of other countries, and I want to know what I can get through, I want to test myself.
Yeah. So when you get into a position, you know how to get out.
So those are the real
That's
overlanders,
cool.
the guys that are, gone for months, and they're living out of their rigs and whatnot. We go for 7 to 10 days at a time, and we do 500 miles off road through Utah or Baja or whatever.
Man, that is
That's
so
still
cool.
badass.
I think it's so cool.
7 to 10 days. I always thought overlanding was we're going to get in the rig and we're going to go and not stop, And
Yeah.
if we, if we figure it out, great. If we don't, great. But, we're going to make a memory.
It's similar. That what I think it's different than going to like Moab and just running trails and coming back to the same place. Either it's a condo or a motel,
Sure, yeah.
or your camper.
Right.
And then the overlanding is like you start at one point and you work your way.
Exactly.
It's like a big loop, or you have it's not really even a one destination. It's like making one gigantic trail.
Yeah.
That is so
Yeah.
cool, man.
Yeah.
Some
And
of the pictures and stuff that you've posted on your Instagram, the_ridge_way, are so cool, man. They are really like, well, you just made fun of them, the people that just take pictures of their cars, but you're actually out there doing it, and these pictures are just insane cool. Like the places that you've gone, I can only imagine what it took to get to those places.
Well, with our background, like I said, we're used to taking chances. And
Yeah.
we still take chances. And so now I'm just in a van taking chances. And
That's so cool, though.
and my level of being comfortable, or maybe my comfort of being uncomfortable, gets me to go places that most people
Sure.
won't go.
You think he could get in the Guinness Book of World Records for taking his van somewhere that nobody's
I'm
been?
Sure. I'm sure. I wouldn't be surprised if I hear about that.
So
soon.
here's what I want to do. I want to roll into like Easter Jeep Safari. I have a locker in my van. I have a selectable locker, an ARB. Have you seen the guys in the Middle East? Those guys are awesome. Like they will turn their rigs into a roll and they'll save it and bring it up on 2 wheels.
Oh,
no
yeah,
ramp
yeah.
or nothing. I want to do that in my van.
That
That
be
would be
awesome.
super
And I want to
cool.
roll into like Moab on 2 wheels in my van and park it.
Have you done it? Like we can do it in side by sides.
I've done it in race cars
Yeah.
and like my King of the Hammer stuff. Not really on purpose, but I used to do it in my Samurai on purpose. And I had a gooseneck trailer, and I'd just drive off the side of it, with the ramp. I'd
Come
go
up.
up with the driver's side, and just we'd have contests to see who could go the farthest.
Sweet.
And so I want to get it to where I can just do like a circle and bring the van up and then drive out of it. I'm just
You just don't want to scrape.
Yeah.
Roll it on the
So,
side.
real quickly. The story about my van was
Well, it's a 40 Econoline van?
It's a 40 Econoline in 1996, and my friend's dad bought it, and my friend and I used to take it and go all over the country, or not, mostly over the Pacific Northwest and stuff, racing. And me and him were best friends. I pretty much, I taught him how to drive, but he looked up to me a lot, and he ended up dying of cancer.
Oh, man.
His son did, and he was my best friend. He was like my little brother, and we did everything together. I mean, I used to screw with him so bad. Took him up to the forest up in Washington, and at the last gas station, I saw this movie. They have them on sale, and one of them was Deliverance. So I bought Deliverance. This kid's 16. He's 16 years old, and we're up in the mountains by ourselves in Washington, and we were watching Deliverance, and I'm just watching him, and he is freaking out.
Yeah, that would mess me up pretty good.
So after the movie was over, I was like, hey, let's go for a ride. We're just riding like XRs and it's real small lights, and we're going through, and I'd get way ahead of him. I'd get off my bike and I'd run back a little bit, and he'd come around a corner. I'd just tackle him off his bike out of the darkness. It's like 1 a.m. And
Super messing with them.
Oh, I did it twice, and then I didn't do it the rest of the night. And he said the longer it went that I didn't do it, he said every tree he thought I was hiding
He's
behind.
building up.
So
he was messed up.
I used to screw with him like that. Then he got bigger and stronger than me, and then we'd get done riding, and he'd wrestle me to the ground and wrap his knee pad around my head with, you know how bad those things stink.
Oh, man.
Oh my God. And so we had that kind of relationship. He was so
That's cool.
awesome, and he passed away the night before I started the Baja 1000.
Oh, man.
And
You guys dedicated to him?
yeah, we got a sticker and we put it on.
That's cool.
His dad had someone rush the sticker down to the bike the night before the race.
That's so cool.
And I was 2X. I led the Baja 1000 for, 15 minutes.
I was going to
But,
say, it's getting a little late today, but I was going to say, like, we didn't even get into some of the off-road racing that you did, or even get into the Porsche stuff that you did.
I don't know about you, George, but I think that, this should be a repeat.
I definitely think so, too.
Yeah.
There's so much more that we can still talk
Yeah,
about,
I'd
man.
love to be back, too.
Yeah, that would be super cool to
Very
have
cool.
a reunion of sorts. Yeah, the amount of stuff that, like, when I wake up tomorrow, I guarantee you I'm going to feel like doing more. Like, I can just know that I'm going to be one to bite the bullet and just do more. Well, I don't want to cut you short, man, but we definitely got to get going.
All right.
But I do want to know a couple more questions because we asked Lance what he's got going with SolderWeld. I want to know what's the future hold for you, like maybe this year, next 5 years.
I don't really know. I want to figure out a way to help some people out. Maybe do a nonprofit, that kind of thing. I don't want to go into too much detail about it because it's not done. I'd rather talk about it when it's done.
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah.
I'm working on it,
I agree.
and it's a little much for me to handle, to be honest with you. Like I'm not good at that stuff.
I think you might be able to get through it with the attitude that you have. Just maybe, dude.
I don't know.
I don't know that you've ever. Do you think he's ever bit off more than he could chew?
No.
Uh,
No, I'm pretty sure he doesn't think so either.
No, I don't know. There's
It's
things
a
that I'm
whole
weak
new
in,
realm.
you know?
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
Hey, it's just a piece of paper, dude. I think you'll be just fine helping people, man.
Yeah,
Have the person that knows how to set it up for you. And
Right.
I think your ambition and your drive was what's going to be the most important part.
Yeah.
So that's where I want to end up.
And I think you can it's a follow-up question to this, and you can probably answer it in the same context. But when you're gone, what do you want to be remembered for?
Kind of want to be respected for someone that tried to be right to others and and helped others.
Is that because of a lot of the things that you've seen in your life? Because we talked about it before. Like, racers are generally selfish, right? But that's a pretty unselfish thing to say.
I don't know. I mean, I grew up for so long just wanting to be the baddest guy to ever ride a motorcycle.
Yeah, kind of feel like we're never going to fully grow up, though, right?
Yeah. And I think that's something else that needs to be discussed is that all the guys that didn't make it, like we were close.
Yeah.
I mean, you were close. I know it. If we were close, and it might not look at it by results, but if you think about how close you really were to making it big in motocross,
Well, the lap before I got hurt, I passed Jimmy Button. So
Yeah. I mean, we were close, and
Yeah.
there's so many guys like us that
Absolutely.
that didn't make it, and how are we supposed to handle that because we didn't know anything else?
Well, there's definitely I've seen two sides of the story. There's people that go the wrong way and people that go the right way. And whether we think we're going the right way or not, you've said a million times you wish you'd made different decisions. I do too. But we picked a good path.
Yeah.
Like, so I give you mad respect for that, and that's a very humble answer to just want to be remembered by doing good and stuff. And I think with some of the things that you're going to try to do, we can follow up and, maybe after you get the nonprofit started or something, I think that you're going to be remembered for doing a lot of good stuff, dude. And
Absolutely.
I can promise you that your immediate family already remembers that because you've done some pretty amazing stuff for them.
They've definitely affected me. I appreciate that,
cool.
man.
Thank you.
Seriously.
Dude, okay, so I know you got to get going, Lance. You got to drive to Phoenix. Let's go through this rapid-fire Q&A real quick. So we'll go Lance, and then we'll go you. So same questions to each one of you guys. It was Roxon or Tomac, but Roxon or Webb?
Webb.
Yeah, I already know your answer is going to be Webb. So I'm going to go with I'll go with Roxon just to be the different guy. Favorite food?
Sushi.
Sushi?
I said Mexican food earlier, but I'm pretty big on hamburgers.
Oh, there you go. Okay, we'll go with hamburgers then. iPhone or Android?
iPhone.
Android.
There you go. Two different sides of the coin on that one. Favorite soda?
I don't drink soda, but I'd have to go with Mountain Dew if I did.
The white man's margarita right there,
Yeah,
Patron and Mountain Dew.
exactly.
If we're not talking energy drinks, probably Mountain Dew.
Mountain Dew? You going Mountain Dew too?
I want to choose between.
Are we talking energy drinks?
Well, I
Because I might have to change my answer.
Well, I don't want to go one way or the other because I got friends on both
Yeah,
sides.
you're right.
I don't ask energy drinks because, I don't drink them, and then second, I want to help Red Bull Wings for life. So,
Yeah.
The helmet over there says different.
that was a previous point in my life. Okay. So, the favorite soda thing is kind of funny with me though. Is I've always liked Mountain Dew. I've always liked Diet Dr Pepper, but after getting my head smashed, I can't get enough orange soda.
Really?
Weird. It's like that whole pregnant chick wanting to eat pickles and ice cream and shit.
Yeah,
who knows what happens to your body, and it's just taste buds, man. And I can't get anything spicy enough now. Like, I don't know what it is. Most memorable race, and I'll ask you this, Lance. Maybe it wasn't a race that you raced in, but most memorable event race.
The Long Beach to Catalina offshore race, pulling a skier behind us at 75 miles an hour.
That's fucking nuts.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Dude. All right, most memorable race. I can pick one for you, the X Games,
Yeah, okay.
because that was the most memorable, me seeing you on the podium.
Yeah, that
Like,
was awesome.
You guys are like Jesus to me when I was standing down there. So
That's pretty badass, seriously.
the favorite flavor of ice cream?
Mint chip, chocolate chip, mint chocolate chip.
Cookie dough.
Cookie dough? I'm kind of almost by you. Like, I'm going to go with like pralines and cream or one of those
Yeah,
bad boys.
pralines and cream's great too.
M&M's or Skittles? Oh, you like mint chocolate chip.
Skittles.
You going Skittles?
Dude, I love Skittles, man. Love Skittles.
All right.
Plain M&Ms.
You going plain M&M's?
Plain, right?
Yep.
Wow, okay.
All right. Dogs or cats?
Dogs.
Dogs.
Yeah, same.
Sure.
Ooh, burritos or tacos?
Tacos.
Burritos.
Ooh, there you go. Yeah, you did have a burrito, didn't you? All right, and if you were a character in the movie Hangover, which character would you be?
Bradley Cooper.
You going Bradley Cooper?
Yeah, for sure.
All right, you can go
Yeah.
Mike Tyson too.
No, I'd go Bradley Cooper. I was never that good at
Ooh,
it. I got in a lot of fights, but I wasn't that good.
So we got one dude that was said that he wanted to be I forgot his name now, Mr. Chow.
Mr. Chow, yeah.
So I thought that was pretty good. All right, and the final one in the rapid fire Q&A: chips and guacamole or French fries and ketchup?
Guacamole. Chips and guac for sure.
Yeah.
Chips and guac.
That's been pretty unanimous. Only one dude answered fries and ketchup. Well, Lance, I definitely
Probably
agree with you.
quads.
Yeah. Say that a little louder. So, Lance, I definitely agree with you. I think this should be a reunion that we take. Chris hasn't told us even probably 30% of the things that he's done.
God,
and
we went 3 hours, and I still
Well,
feel
we had
like we could use some more.
We had a little hailstorm in the middle of it, so I'm really, really thankful for everybody that still stayed in touch with the show and kept on going with us. It really means a lot to me. I'm sorry we didn't get to our commercials today. I honestly, I was too enamored by listening to Chris. Like,
It's good stuff.
it really was.
Yeah.
So, you guys please go visit Shock Therapy on Instagram or wherever. Use the code DIRTLIFE for anything Shock Therapy. Call them up. Get your ride all dialed in. Please check out the guys at SolderWeld. Lance has some awesome stuff coming out. If you're in Utah, the 27th, 28th, and 29th, you said?
Yeah, 28th and 29th.
Yeah, cruise out to the
Salt Lake Off-Road Expo.
Yep, cruise out there.
I'll
Say
be
what's up.
excited
to
to
those
have this stuff on my van, but I can't say I really want to use it.
Yeah, you
I
definitely
don't
don't want to
blame
use
you.
it, but you want
I
to have
don't
it in
blame
there.
you, but I'm glad you're going to have
But
it.
it's one of those things, though, dude. If you have it, you never have to use it, right? Like, it's one of if you have the first aid kit in there, it doesn't get used. But yeah, so thank you guys very much, Lance. I appreciate you coming all the way here, and thank you for always being a supporter
It was my pleasure.
of us and the
Really
show.
cool meeting you.
Yeah, totally, man.
And thank you very much to the guys at Rigid Industries. We really appreciate them. First and foremost, I can't thank the audience enough. You guys are the lifeblood of the show. I really appreciate everybody. I'm so sorry we had internet issues, but we can't control Mother Nature. I'm glad we got the show back lined up. And we're going to have Chris Nunes on the next show, next Monday. He's an off-road racer. Now he's turned into a Mazda Miata racer. So it'll be cool to see his transition from off-road to pavement. And he's got some cool. Yeah, I feel like he will too. I think like going backwards, it's a little harder.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think he will do well. And I can't wait to talk to him and see what his story's like. Thank you guys again very much for tuning into the show. We really appreciate it. We love you guys. Good night.
See ya.
Thanks for listening to The Dirt Life Show.